Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nollywood Film Club podcast. I am Mr. C of Iroka Critic, and welcome to this very special episode of a Netflix original, an actual Netflix original, not Collision Course, like somebody might have said in a previous space. This is a fun conversation. I say this because fun conversations for me are usually any conversations that happen on Nollywood Film Club. But I like it when it gets a little feisty, without going collision course extremes. We have this conversation will contain one of, I guess, a couple future more talks about nudity in Nollywood. I'm not going to say any more about that. It's in there, and you'll hear enough about it in future episodes to come. Foreshadowing. Not subtle. But yeah, this is a fun one. One of Kunle Afolayan's better works in recent times. But yeah, I do hope you enjoy Nollywood Film Club discussing Aníkúlápó. Hello, everybody. We are Nollywood Film Club. We discuss movies every Sunday, 6:00. Today, we will be discussing Aníkúlápó. All right, up to a rough start. But in case you're new to Nollywood Film Club, the way we do it here is we discuss the good, we'll discuss the bad, and then we'll give a summary of our thoughts for who remains till then.
Sometimes we do bad.
Yes, but feel free to request to be a speaker. Feel free to challenge people if you respectfully. If you think they're talking in the nonsense, I will moderate. I'll be moderating it. All right. Okay. So without wasting too much time, let's just get straight into it. Let's start with the good stuff. What did people like about Aníkúlápó? All right. Starting off, Elizabeth, please go on.
Can I not start? Hi guys.
That's what you get for coming at me.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. If you want to pass it on, it's fine. We can come back to you if you.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Can somebody else go? Let me change my earphones. I think it can hear.
Okay, yeah. Let's track this up. All right, Fida, do you want to go on?
Fida will have a list.
Yeah, Fida's list is ready. Go on.
Hola, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Fida.
All right, you'll be surprised. I came with a very refined list. I was ready today, but it's still going to be a bit long. So let's all get comfortable. Thank you. I like the story of this film. I like that the lesson was an Oduifa and that it was about pride going before a fall, which I think is an important lesson that was beautifully told. I like the cinematography and I felt like the continuity was seamless. I liked seeing the dynamic of Saro and Auntie Shola's character. I've forgotten her name, or I don't know how to pronounce it though. And then the dynamic with Bimbo. I felt like the acting by the two women was outstanding, very strong, believable roles. I liked Auntie Shaw's and Kunle Remi's love dynamic. Despite not being affectionate on screen, there was real chemistry there for that dynamic. Then I thoroughly enjoyed seeing the tenderness between Aníkúlápó and Arolake after he was first killed. She stayed with his body, prevented the bird from sealing his death, and guided him on their journey. My favorite moments were the parts where they were eating fruits and cleaning themselves with water. You could see her fondness for him through those subtle actions and how he reciprocated easily. I really thought they were going to be that couple with a great love dynamic, but ... I liked how the movie made me feel. You ended up liking Saro and rooting for his success, possibly ignoring the warning signs that he was greedy and didn't heed to warnings. I felt I glossed over that until years later when he raped Omowo. I was distraught. Then I like the procession of Aníkúlápó's act of bringing people back to life in his final scene. You could tell he had perfected his act over the years. I like the scene where he attempted to bring the prince back to life, the silence, how it was deafening, with inflections of humor from the elder that pierced the silence with his words from time to time. I liked Kunle Remy as a lead. We all know he's a beautiful man, and I felt he was good for this role. I've been excited to see him in this since I followed the BTS of this movie on Instagram a long time ago. He brought that naivete but hidden agenda to the role. I felt the character developed perfectly. I mean, his emotions were portrayed more through body language, and it made me feel he embodied his character completely. Yes, he was a bit slow with the words, like he was unsure at times in terms of dialect, but overall, I think he gave a solid performance. I had no doubts though, because I love him as an actor. Then Bimbo's acting was beautiful. She never tries too hard. Her Yoruba, her mannerisms, she sold the character. She was perfect. I've loved her before now, but I loved her even more after watching this movie. The strength, the need for survival, the wit and swiftness in certain moments in comparison to her naivete, her shortedness, her suffering, her pain. She embodied it all and gave a phenomenal performance. Bimbo is a great actress, and I feel like I need her in more movies like this. She's versatile, but it's movies that are about Yoruba culture. I feel she's really good at those as well. So I also want to recognize Debo Macaroni because he was very good in his role. Very good. I feel he's a natural, and I'm genuinely happy he's been able to showcase what he can really do. So far, he's been bringing it in his roles, and in this role, he was solid, and I'm ready to see him in more. Then I love the king and his mouthpiece, seeing the Yoruba OG actors. I love the set design, the fact that it's in a film village. I love that. Love the costuming. Love the fact that Ojuma and Oyo didn't look the same in terms of setting. Love the scenery, the cinematography, the culture. That was beautiful. But what I really liked about this movie was the lesson for women in a way. Arolake's story feels like a tale as old as time. Put yourself first or else. And I feel like this film also showed how from the beginning, women have given in order to seek safety and security, and how these sources they've given to may be unreliable. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Vida.
you.
I always love that you can squeeze so many points in such little time. But yes, very well said. Very concise. What did you want to say, Mrs. C?
I wonder how many people rooted for Sarah as long as Fida did. But yeah.
All right. Okay. If you're just coming in, welcome to Nollywood Film Club. You can actually rate this movie on Nolly Data. The links on the space is pinned there. Also, if you want to join in the conversation, but there's no space, we might rotate our speakers just to get some people on. But if you don't want to speak, you can just use the hashtag Nollywood Film Club or comment underneath, and we'll put any tweet you want up as well and read them out as in between our speakers. All right. Who's our next speaker? Elizabeth, do you want to?
Yes, I want to go. Okay, so what do I like about Aníkúlápó? First, I'd like to say that as Faida said, because this is based on a cautionary tale from the Odu Ifa, which is the wisdom of the Ifa. I like that it's a simple story, but it is very layered. The central theme is hubris, but it's got a lot of layered themes going on because the story is about two ill-fated people whose lives converged. In the first half of their life, first part, they were ill-fated for the same, they were destined for the same thing. He was destined to die in the manner that he did, and she was also fated to be unhappy in a marriage without and childless at the same time. Quite sad for the two people, and when they got a second lease of life, at least for Saru, when she got him, she's basically the Aníkúlápó here because she was the one who got him life for the second time. And this time around, they still encountered the same fate that they ran away from the first time. He still ended up dying the way he died the first time, and she still ended up being sad, childless in her marriage. Quite unfortunate that they are both ill-fated, but I like the central theme and I like the way it was told. So what I like best is the storytelling, actually. the bird asking how he died. We saw that first part. I love that the first part, from the first part, the first half Saru, you cannot imagine who he is because he's this innocent young man, stranger in a new town, which things were just happening to. Again, apart from storytelling, I like the characterization. The storytelling was awesome because you can see the second half Saru and Arolake completely. You can maybe peek into their motivations better by the second half. The motivation that was not really on the surface in the first half when they were in the Oyo Kingdom, and now that they're in Ojumo, you can now see it better like in the second half, and you start understanding who exactly Saru. Has Saru always been like this? This is a young man who was sold into slavery when he was young. Has he always been covetous? Is it that this is just his fate and he just cannot escape it? And is that the reason why this bird did refuse to um give him life a second time, give him a second chance at life? I like the characterization. This is something that I've not seen in Nollywood in a long time. No offense to other people, but I would really take a well-written character with, like, you're not seeing so many it's almost like every single thing about their characterization was meant to unfold something, was meant to do something, and then you can peek into the lives of these two people whose life converged, and in two times, in two words, they still suffered the same fate. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was well done. Of course, the movie probably did not go the way I would want, but I like that so much. I love the world building that Kunle Afolayan did for the kingdoms. One, I've always talked about representing food in movies. I'm very happy that they ate more than once, more than twice, three times. I don't know, I can't count, but every time I see food appear on my screen, I'm always happy because it's not enough that we somehow just shoot movies. We need to sustain our way of life even through movie. I think that's how, a lot of industries have managed to sell their culture across board, and that gives me joy. I like the way the Oyo Kingdom was different from Ojumo Kingdom, like Faida mentioned. You can see that Oyo was way richer. More people wore the Ashofi. In Ojumo, they were more of the tie and dye people. And then you can see the people who wore different clothes. You can see that their status kind of like different, apart from the king and his wife and children that still stuck to wearing the tie and dye. You can also see their trade. Awarun was a pottery maker. Um, Macaroni's character, I can't remember the name. He was a blacksmith. Um, in Ojumo, they were mostly hunters and farmers because you will see the cassava being spread. I mean, you see cassava often there, and then the hunters. So you can see that those were the other Ojumo people. They are more like agrarian. What else did I like about I love the camera. I love the editing. I love the use of flashback. Okay, apart from the use of flashback for the prince at the end, I didn't think we cared about that. But that aside, I love the use of flashback. It wasn't taking you out. It wasn't taking anyone out, and then it was deftly done. It was quick. It didn't linger. I didn't mind that it was slow burn because, of course, because we really needed a peek into our two characters, right? I love the acting. First, I want to really praise Kunle here because that acting that we got from Shola Shobowale, awesome. I mean, this is reminiscent of Shola Shobowale from Lagidigba, right? The old Yoruba movies when it wasn't always the screaming. See. I think when after watching, I think I was about to sleep, and the first thing that came to me like, was this doing tomato? Because she gave us everything, every angle, everything just worked together. Facial expression, it was in the careful way that we see who she's powerful. At first, when she saw him at a stall, and each time when she calls him as a Saro Alashofi Lati Bongo, you're not so sure if she's mocking him or if she is really intrigued by him. Um, I love the characterization here so much of almost all the characters, majorly our major characters. What else do I like? Um, uh, honestly, I think I like this movie so much. I like the use of music. I thought the use of music was when necessary. You have it. I don't think there was any time that the music took you out of a scene. Everything was, and another testament to Kunle being a I've not always thought this honestly because I've been the some of the past we've been having actors who not necessarily know how to emote. As in Kunle here, and again, I'm biased. Kunle Remy, I've always been biased because I've always thought he was stiff. I've seen him in a lot of movies, and I thought, maybe there's something there, but maybe not. But for this movie, it was awesome. The casting was perfect. Well, it was perfect for this fine man. As in, you can see how he's built. I don't know if he added weight for this movie, but everything just worked together for it. Costuming was. I mean, I think they tried their best. What else? I just really noticed that Jumo had chiefs who were flamboyant. I don't know if that was that I don't know why, because some of the chiefs in Ojumo they were wearing velvet, a couple of, I think, one or damask. So maybe proximity to the Portuguese at the ports. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, it's just one of those things that sometimes I just think about. Um what else do I really like? I'm sure I'll remember other things, but first, characterization, I love it. I like that so many theories. I can come up with a lot of theories about this movie. I like that it elevates the discourse. This thing was the actor Aníkúlápó, is it Saru, is it Arolake? Um, the significance of some of the characterization. Does it make sense that Arolake didn't have a child? Is that she couldn't give birth, but she sort of gave birth to Saru. Does that make sense? Is that it? Is she the one that gave him life? I mean, she gave him life, and she took it back. So many things. Is it the reason she didn't take the power of the god for herself? Is it because she would have been branded as a witch? I mean, we've already thought. I mean, one of the queens had already implied that is she a witch because she was favored, but she was in a prison which was not of her own making. She wanted out, she wanted freedom, she got it, and then she got into another prison of her own making. So many things to just get out of this. I really liked it. Thank you very much. I'll talk more. Thanks. Bye.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. All right, a lot of love there. I might fight on some points, but generally, I agree with a lot of the things. Production design was, I think, living in bondage is the last time I remember being really taken aback by production design. If we're going to exclude maybe like a movie, which I saw. I think
Kunle is typically attentive to production design.
Yeah, but this is really
Yes,
felt very expensive.
It was though. There's the whole film village. So,
yes,
but Kunle has always paid attention to production design.
In fairness, he's certainly not how to put a thing. Put his the money to work in production. Just going to take Babajide's tweet using the hashtag Nollywood Film Club. He said the music in Aníkúlápó is wonderful. I would buy it for its own sake. The story, the cinematography, the sets, the acting. 100. This movie is such a labor of love for the Yoruba culture and for filmmaking. Top film. All right. All right. So, who is next? I think we have Abdul. Who's
Vanessa?
Sorry, Vanessa.
Hey, I will fight.
Sorry.
Please, as Elizabeth has already spoken on my points, let me just quickly say what I want to say and go away.
Go ahead.
This film sort of made me renew my Stan membership for Kunle Afolayan. The last couple films has been touch and go there, and this one just sort of reaffirmed. And I think it's a thing where people are like, oh, don't do many things, blah 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 blah. But Kunle is really at his best, Afolayan that is, when he seeks to tell stories about the Yoruba culture. Because for him, this is coming from a place of love. And so he treats it that way. Because this felt like like the tweet that you read, this felt like a labor of love, and you could see it in the treatment of, you know, the world building, like Elizabeth said, and like everyone said about the set design and how Ojumo people wore Adire and more of the people in the Oyo kingdom wore Ashofi. But I also really like Kunle Remy. I feel like everyone's just sort of underselling Kunle Remy's performance. And I think it's easy to do that because a lot of people are focusing on how beautiful that man is. And I know it's hard to focus when Kunle Remy is in front of you because he's a beautiful man. And even more so beautiful with his Ila. Because how can you be fine with Ila Okola and you are fine? But that's not the focus here. No, but that's not the focus here. The focus is, for the first half of that film, Kunle barely had any lines, right? He maybe said a couple words here and there. A lot of Kunle's performance in that first half, where basically he was telling the bird how he died, a lot of his performance was in his body. And so we had to make a lot of inferences, which is where the characterization of Saru comes in, and why I feel like Kunle did an amazing job on this. Because without having so many lines to say, he sold to us that Saru was this simple-minded, I don't want too much from life, but a lot of stuff is happening to me. Oh my God, this woman is giving me everything I want. But there was that little thing, at the back of his eyes that showed that he was greedy, that he was covetous, and that this wasn't just, oh, I'm just taking what's happening to me as it is. It's, I like that this is happening to me. And yeah, why not? And it's revealed in the conversation with Arolake where he talks about being a slave. And then you see that this is someone who was sold into slavery to pay the debt of his parents. And so for him, he was never going to be in a position where he was without again, which is the reason why he came to Oyo. I mean, it's a no-brainer that he will come to the kingdom of Oyo because it was a much larger, much successful kingdom where the chances of him making it as a free man now were higher. And then for all of this to be happening to him, of course, he's going to lay back and take it because that's what he wants. So behind the surface thing that we get from pretty boy, just, taking whatever comes to him is, oh, I don't want too much from life. I just want to work as a Ashofi weaver and that's it. But no, Saru has always wanted more. And Kunle did a really amazing job with how he moved and how he sold his face as that innocent, I just happen to be pretty. But that's not it. And I feel like we're going to be underselling Kunle's performance if we don't give him his props for that. The two Kunles knocked it out of the park, Afolayan and Remy. I'm going to say again on Shola, I'm just going to keep buttressing it because I feel like a lot of us are going to do that. But I feel like maybe for the exception of the first King of Boys, this is the least shouty performance I've seen, and with a lot more nuance from Shola Sobowale since Wedding Party. We've gotten a reiteration of that loud, screamy, shouty take. And I mean, we can blame it on how these characters are written, but this is the first time in a long time that I've seen Shola Sobowale give nuance to a character. A prime example is the scene where Saru confronts her for being with that other man. It could have been in another film, and Shola Sobowale would most likely have been shouting her lines. But it was the coy in her eyes. She was looking at him and still smiling while reprimanding him and reminding him that he's not her husband. She didn't ask for commitment from him. And she sold that moment. It was beautiful to watch, honestly. And I feel like props should also be given to Kunle Afolayan for getting that kind of performance out of Shola Sobowale and also from Kunle Remy. It was there was I don't know, it was like a soft touch. and maybe it was refreshing for me, especially from all the boo 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 whoa 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 loud extra stuff we've gotten a lot in Nollywood recently, to see something that many would describe as a simple story, very simple lesson, very simple beginning, middle, end. The performances made this, it's that touch, it's that slight touch, it's that nuance, and we see it also with Arolake, and which is why the like Elizabeth said, the characterization in this is really important, when she tells us, tells Saru and invariably us as well, that she was married into the royal family at 15. It then makes sense why she's probably not as knowledgeable in how to deal with the fellow queens, because this was a life that she was thrown into. She didn't ask for it. She wasn't prepped ever growing up to be a royal wife. She didn't receive that training. That's why she will down poison without, worrying, and thinking I'm in a polygamous household where these women are bound to take my throat. But there's still that naivety, and it's evident in the way she threw herself into this relationship with Kunle. And I think it was also very beautiful the way it was evident to me, at least, and I'm sure to a bunch of other people, that this wasn't love. There was a fondness there, but this wasn't love. It was her first taste of freedom, which is why she dove headlong into it. For someone who's been in basically captivity in a marriage that was not of her wanting at such a young age, this was her first taste of freedom. This was something she wanted. She saw Saru and she wanted him, and for the first time in her life, she was going to take something that she wanted. But this wasn't love, because even after she rescued him, even though I don't know why, but I guess she was trying to hold on to that feeling, because she could have still had her freedom without rescuing him from that bird, but I guess she wanted to hold on to that feeling that she had. But it was evident in the way she hid the god from Saru until the time arose when it was needed to use it. It was also evident in the way she begged him not to abandon her in the forest. If this was love, there would be a measure of trust. If this was someone you loved, then you would say, okay, this person will not abandon me in the forest. But there wasn't that. It was just, okay, I'm attached to this person for now because this is my freedom. And yeah, I like you, but this wasn't love. And I think it was beautiful the way that was revealed to us. And it was in those tiny little moments. What else did I really like? I really liked seeing the veterans. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, they didn't have too many lines. They don't need to have too many lines. They were acting their butts off for even in not having too many lines. It was beautiful to see. Yinka Quadri was great. Ogogo was great as well. Who else? What else did I really like? Ooh. It came to my head and then it escaped. Bimbo. I feel like I haven't spoken about Bimbo. I've spoken about her character, but Bimbo did a really good job. And I think something we should give Bimbo props to is her commitment to learning dialects of languages with regards to roles that are given to her. We saw it with her in Breaded Live, with her attempt at Egun. It may not have been perfect, but you could see the commitment to learning that specific dialect. And we see it here. The Oyo dialect is very, it's, I guess, the main dialect for this film. And you could see her commitment to speaking it, to learning this dialect. And I feel like we should give Bimbo her props for it. I want to see Bimbo in more dramatic roles. And like Elizabeth said, what's it? Elizabeth said, this film gives us the opportunity to come up with different theories, and I appreciated it. Personally, I would have liked for Saru's life to have ended at that first half, but that's just me, and I'm petty. But I genuinely would have enjoyed this being a progression into Arolake being Aníkúlápó. But I guess it's also reflective of the times. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't without its flaws. I still have a list of dislikes, but I really enjoyed watching this.
All right. Thanks, Vanessa. A lot of points in there. Apparently, despite Elizabeth saying a bunch of yours, but thank you. Demise and Dika. Sorry, Dika. Did you want to say some of the things you liked?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm going to say my points now. Elizabeth and Vanessa, I think they've mostly said everything. So let me just sort of repeat or say what they've said in a different way. I liked this film. I enjoyed it. I don't know that I've enjoyed a Nollywood film in a long time. I've enjoyed Nollywood films, but the way I enjoyed this, because sort of the kind of story that it was is the kind of story that I like, and it's not mainly about it being a Yoruba epic. It's in the storytelling. It's in how simple the story was. There was no need to complicate things, and the story took its time to build. I like that. I like slow burns, and I think one of the best things about slow burns is that you don't take your eyes off. It engages you, and this film engage, and then to enjoy this film, you need to pay attention, and that's what I liked about this film. And so something else that has been said here is that where the film allows us to make up these theories, and I don't think that would have been possible if not for the nature of the storytelling and how it. Some of the things we pick up about the characters are things we observe from watching them and paying keen attention to how things unfold. It's nothing was spoon fed. Not even. I thought what's it called now? The flashbacks. I thought they were needed, and I liked how they were done. And so also to tie it in to the performances of the actors, I think it's also the nature of the story and how rich the characterization is, and I think that's what allowed for the depth we see in the characters and the nuance, and how even with the performances, how we saw a lot more restraint, a lot more control, how their choices were not predictable. I like that scene. What Vanessa said about Shola Shobole, when how you could see the core in her eyes when Vanessa, I said Vanessa, sorry, when Saru approached Shola's character about the other man she had been in bed with. So these are things that would. I think for Nollywood is remarkable. In fact, not just for Nollywood, for any other film, we don't get to see stories like this anymore. Even Hollywood, anywhere where stories take their time to build, we're allowed to observe things and pay keen attention and to enjoy it. I liked the fact that the actors learned to speak the or your dialect. But of course, because I'm not Yoruba, I can't say it was good or it was bad. But from other Yoruba speakers I've spoken to, I think the general agreement is that everyone did a decent job, and I like that. And I compared with Igbo, and Igbo has a lot of dialects, and so I thought about it, and I was imagining how difficult it would be to have actors who are from, Imo, Enugu, and say maybe choose an Igbo dialect for them to speak, and maybe say in Soka, and then have them all learn the dialect spoken in Soka, and how difficult that would be. But I also hear that your dialect is sort of mainstream too, and so it's just I don't know. I'm not saying that it wasn't difficult, but it's something I comment. I like that. I liked Bimba Ademoye in this film. I think she's incredible. I think she's really, really, really. We watch her is this comedic roles, and then to see her do this, and not also to give into melodrama, to see her play a character that's entirely different from the Barakat we see on YouTube, or the Gun speaker we saw in Breaded Life. I like that, and I like Sarashobol and Kunle together as I like their relationship. I thought they had good chemistry. I liked that the intimacy in those scenes. It wasn't awkward despite the age. I thought Shola Shobole was comfortable being that intimate with a younger actor. I don't know, but I just felt I don't know many actors who you wouldn't pick some rigidity from in those scenes. So it's something that I saw and I liked, and I think this is Shola at her best. I've not seen. I mean, I know I didn't see like the Yoruba films from way back, but she did some English films that were like, I mean, old Nollywood English films too. Like I remember her in those ones, and then I'm not sure I remember her doing Tomatoes. I'm not sure I saw that, but like from what I've seen, even from KOB, I think this is her best performance because I saw a lot more depth in this. I saw a lot more nuance. I liked that her choices weren't. I mean, we are like you couldn't predict her reaction. Yeah, and that is. I think that's what we get to see a lot with some of our films where anger is played exactly the same way. If a character is angry, we expect the actor to shout. Where everything is on the nose, where the performance is on the nose, basically. And I think it's kudos to the writer, Shola Dada, who, I mean, because it's really the writing that sort of like helps these things come to life. Like if the writing is layered, if it's textured, then the directing and the performance can be. And so kudos to her, kudos to Kunle Afolayan. I think that's all I want. Okay, I also like the central message. So yeah, let me say that hubris, how power corrupts, and it's something that I really like about this is that we can identify a central message, and I think this is what sort of like helped the story be cohesive. And I don't think I see that a lot with our films, and so that is what makes this stand out, that we can point to a central message and see how the events in the story sort of led us to what we take away from the story. And I think that is sort of like what, even though a lot of like old Nollywood stories were moralistic, but they had a central message, and that is why even till today we sort of like appreciate them despite how low production value was. And it's that you go into a movie and you come out with a message, you've been engaged intellectually, and so that's what I love about this, that we can identify a central message, that it had thematic coherence, and then that the story was cohesive. Yeah, that's what I liked about Aníkúlápó.
Wow, engaged intellectually. All right. Okay, big words. The multi-syllable words are coming out from Dika today, which must means he must have spent some time prepping for this. But thank you for sharing your positives. I'm just going to read another. Oh no, it's not a new one. But you can use the hashtag Nollywood Film Club if you want to share your thoughts with us, but you don't want to come up to speak. I might start rotating speakers in a little bit. All right, so I forgot where I was. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with King T Jags if he or she wants to. Yeah.
Okay.
Good thing.
Hello, guys. So concerning the Aníkúlápó movie, well, the thing I like about the movie, there are just few things I would say I like about the movie. And being a student of history, like, you can see that the movie was able to, project to us what the Yoruba society was before or during the period of the Europeans. Because at some point, you would see when the chiefs, they were talking about slave raiding and all that. So we were able to see how the Yoruba society was and the kind of activities they engaged themselves in. I think for that aspect, Kunle has been able to, bring us into the light of how the society was. And another thing I would also say I like is the cinematography. I think the cinematography, Kunle in his movies, like, it keeps on, improving in the camera shots. And I think for that aspect alone, Nollywood has been, improving a lot. Like, every of his movie, you would see that the way he shoots is getting improved. And the VFX used for the Akalabed, I think it was okay. Like, it was not that bad, but it was okay. Aside that, mainly those are the only the cinematography and the history part are the only things I would say I like about the movie, because I have lots of things I don't really like about the movie, but I think that's for another
Section, yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
No problem. We'll get to that, but thank you for
yeah.
sharing. All right, Ayinka, please tell us the things you enjoyed about Aníkúlápó.
Oh, it's my turn. Yeah. So, yeah, like first of all, the set design, beautiful. I I think I'm going to repeat what everybody else has said. I do like the attention to details about how, like, oh, this is Oyole, this is the capital of the Oyo Empire. So it's made out of like more solid woods and all it's a walled city. You can see all of that, and I love that. The cinematography is beautiful. I actually do also like the bird. I was kind of expecting a lot more fantasy, but I didn't get that as much, but it's okay. No problem. I still like it. I love the fact that this is like how am I gonna put it? It's like a mythology. It's like a myth. It's sort of like a myth saying, but what am I gonna say? But it's also very the filmmaking is also very steeped, and the acting and the cinema world is also very steeped within like Nigerian cinematic language. I keep on saying this. I'm saying it so many times because I'm just like, finally, something that actually feels indigenous to us. And obviously, they're speaking in Yoruba, but there are many ways where a movie can be speaking in Yoruba and a movie can look like it's from Africa and they're set in Africa, and it's quite obvious it's not an African that wrote this, or it's quite obvious that the cultural context that they're using it's from a very different place, not necessarily African. And this movie is just that beautiful. Everybody has already talked about the performances. I love the performances. I also love the story. Yes, is it a slow burn? Yes, did it take long? I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Especially it's a type of like sort of mythological storytelling that I think okay, I can give space for it to be that long, and also I mean they put a lot of work into the production, and we needed to see that. We needed to see how beautiful it is, how wonderful all the work is that oh all the artwork that the crew did. And I really want to like the crew really did a lot of work, even the extras, although some people were smiling when they shouldn't have been smiling, but the extras is okay. Um, it was I actually like that some people you could see one of the extras just smiling. I think they were just excited to be in it. So I was like, the infection of the excitement also got to me. Um, so those are the things. Like this is for one thing. Can I also mention that Kunle, whoever he hired to do the beard, is that for me? Whoever he hired to do the beards and to work with I'm just happy that it's not his regular people that like to do quite awful wigs and like beard things, but this time it actually was good. And I absolutely love the fact that I get to see these old veterans, this ones, the people that have been watching in Yoruba movies for a long time, and then you see them. And I think like Kunle Hermi, pretty good. Um, I like Shola Shabali's character. It's a type of character that we don't often see. If It's a type of female character that we don't often see, and I kind of like the fact that they showed it that yeah, she back in the day, women don't often sometimes they can leave, they can just leave their husbands home, and they would. It wasn't such a big deal, and it wasn't such a crazy thing. Or although you could still see that the way that the writing is done is still very much of a contemporary period of the way they like sometimes gave certain characters and certain ways that the characters would talk. Yeah, they're of like the 21st century, but that's something typical to all historical movies. They tend to have more contemporary ways imposed into the past, but it's beautiful and it's like wonderful. I mean, most people have already said all the good things I wanted to say. I love the poetry, I love the music, I have to say it is kind of inventive. Was it the Nigerian American actor
Oh,
who played the king?
is it Hakeem?
I think I thought when they got to him, I was like,
How they gonna do the Yoruba?
yes, because it's not that it cannot be in a Yoruba movie. You just be in a modern day Yoruba movie. You can't necessarily be in a more contemporary. Even I was born in Nigeria. I speak Yoruba. I know that I cannot do that type of movie because I will sound clearly off. But it will take years upon years. I mean, months upon months of working on your accent to do it. It's not that I can't do it, but it just takes a lot of money to put into that like type of accent work. And I thought it was quite inventive that they had the what's it called? The one who speaks for the king. And by the way, the one who speaks for the king is Yoruba is just awesome. And the way he was saying it is that he was just like I was just like, yeah, maybe they should have just given him the role, but there were many times I did see Akim do act, so no problem. It was good. It was enjoyable. Did I see that this guy was going to get to the place that it was going? I have to say something. Like the characters, we actually do have characters with dimensions in this, like actual dimensions. They all do something awful at some points, right? They all do something. They all do something awful. They all did something good. They all did something that, and they were like human beings, actual human beings. They weren't just, which is good, which is good characterization. I liked it. It was awesome. It went, and yes, the guy got his comeuppance in the end. You could always, when you look back at the movie, you start to realize that yeah, there is some sort of greediness in him. I mean, he went to sleep with the king's wife and doesn't he didn't even think, he never once even thought about how to, the consequences of it didn't even get into his head, you know. So there are many points that when you look back, you will see it. And I also like the fact that the movie,
Good evening.
this is a movie, I'm sorry, this is a movie that will be seen by Nigerians mainly. And I also do like the fact that, um, I do wish this movie was not only seen by Nigerians, but I also do like the fact that they do talk um slave about the slave trade in Oyo. Much They do talk about the slave trade in Oyo, and this is the second movie within a month that I have seen that talks about an ancient African kingdom and the slave trade. And this one doesn't really whitewash as much, but it does have some sort of questioning about it. But it's kind of cool about that, even though it's just a throwaway line, which is good. And it's nice. It was all lovely. It was all nice. It seemed to pass the bar of the test of like, does this give some sort of like can you perceivably believe that this movie is set in the world that it's set in? Yes.
All right. All right, thanks, Yanka. Yes, it's good world building in this. I think I agree with that. It's very stunning, and to a point Dika raised earlier, I think there's something with the setup of the way that they set up this world that it's just really well done. And yes, we don't see too often in Nollywood. All right, TFR, do you want to share the things you liked? TFR, are you?
Good evening. So,
Okay.
good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello.
I think
My network.
I can hear you, but it says you're muted. But I can hear you. Okay. All right. While TFR sorts her life out. Cynthia, do you want to give us your list? Please try not to repeat any of the things that come out, or just don't spend too much time on things that some people may have already touched on. I know you know the drill, but just mention it for others as well.
What is this, Mr. C? What's this? Okay, so to be sincere, Sorry, I'm distracted. To be sincere, when I started this movie, I thought I wouldn't like it, and that's because I was let down with another Yoruba epic, so I thought I was going to see just a full display of Yoruba culture. But at the ending, I was amazed at how much I love this movie. So I felt everything was good from the acting to the directing to the production to the writing. And in fact, I knew this movie was going to be good when I saw the font. I don't know why nobody has spoken about the font type they use in this movie. Immediately I saw the S design in the Netflix. I just knew that these people took their time to create something that is going to be beautiful. Okay? I really love that font style. Then yeah, just to rush on the production and set design, I actually love how everything, the two villages felt like a community. We know that these are villages and they are different. You could tell that one village is into blacksmith and pottery, more of clay production. The other ones are hunter, and I think they were also doing some palm wine. One is richer than the other based on their clothing, what they sell in their market, and so many things. Then, just to also touch on what Elizabeth said, I also love the food display. When I saw the food, I was like, food in Nollywood, and someone was like, is a K drama fan, and I was like, okay, I can see he's doing so well. It's like adapting what we see in Korean movies into Nollywood. Then, I also love the cameos. So I know a lot of time producers want to come into their movie or they want to be part of their movie. At the beginning of the movie, when I saw in the credits special appearance calling Afolayan, I was like, I'm going to see the special appearance today. And that appearance was really special on the beautified us. Like I have no problem with a producer appearing in his movie. Then I think the cinematography was good. I felt the sound was good, but well, we have experts that might debate on it. I saw a lot of beautiful frames. I didn't like have problem with the lighting. The picture quality was good. I just felt like everything was good. Okay. Then the writing. Yes, this story can be seen as a simple story, but it was well executed. It went from A to B to C to D to E. We did not jump and jump and jump and jump and jump before we got to the final stop. Okay, they were not trying to do a lot of twists and turns that will confuse us. It's a simple story that was well executed. Okay, we saw like when you watch the story, you could hear the early morning kukuruku, the goat sound, and you know that this was done in a rural area. They took account of what happens in a polygamous home. You expect the king's wife to be beefing, and they didn't just like throw beef. Okay, let me throw in beef into the king's wife. They made sure that it was happening between the second and third wife with the youngest wife. I mean, the first wife has been there and she has endured, and she won't be staying most times you won't be seeing first fight beefing like that, okay? And you could also see the retaliation of the other king's wife when the king denied them to go and sleep with the younger wife. Now, this movie also did something I like, the ninth scenes. Now, every time it got to ninth, I was struggling to see what was going on. It felt like it was ninth, okay? It was it was well done. Then they also for every character I felt like they had something like Mr. McConaughey's character. I mean, there's a new kid in the block. We need the jealous guy. Okay, so they also made sure that the day they caught Saro was the day he was anxious. You know, in life, when bad things want to happen to you, you feel it and it happens to you. So I also like that this is something that happens and it also works. So I felt like this writing was a bit flawless. Okay. Then because I tend to find faults in movie. I remember there was a scene I was like, I'm going to find a fault here, but these people did not want me to find fault. And this was the thing that Akin resurrected. So this was the scene where Sarah resurrected Akin. So I was like, I know this is going to be reservation. I watched the trailer. So how will this happen? How is he going to know how to use this god? And then he walked up, he was scared, his hand was shaking. Aroloke almost fainted. The villagers ran, they were scared. I was like, oh my God, these writers are so serious. They really do not want me to catch them. They do not want me to hold them for anything. They were so in it. Okay. And even the Ojumo king, like when he was dumb, he had a mouthpiece. I was like, I'm going to catch these people. Then the next thing was Aholoke discussing it with Saru. I heard the king he does not talk. I'm like, these writers are in it. They were in it. Like they had this movie also have a very good use of deja vu and like if you watch in the beginning the Oyo Kingdom, you could see that the beads on the floor and the king's wife children coming out to help her pick the bead and them insulting her and calling her barren and all this thing. Then she's back to this Ojumo kingdom. It's still the same bead that is causing the maid that became a wife that was insulting her. So they brought in deja vu and they used it and I bought into it. Okay, so I actually just gave up looking for fault in this movie because it was too good. Now, about flashback, I know Elizabeth have touched on it, and a Nollywood movie made me dislike flashback, but this movie, should I say it brought the love, or it's made me appreciate flashback. Okay, so they didn't just keep throwing flashback at me. They used it for to pass a message. Okay, so first of all, we see flashback that was used to move the emotion. We see that Areloke wanted love. She was married early. She was mistreated. Sarah was a slave boy. So it only makes sense for them to find each other and run away. So I was like, okay, this flashback was used to move emotion. Then we also see them using it to share in Areloke's pain. So we are at the end, we are close to the end of the movie, and they give us the flashback again after Sarah started treating her badly on how one of the king's wife was telling her that she's just for the king's pleasure. I started feeling a pain of being a barren woman. And then I was like, no, this Sarah has to die. Okay, so their use of flashback was really good, and yeah, even though at the ending, yeah, but then it was really good. Then sound effects, slow mo, and so many effects. Like these people had things they wanted to use, and they didn't just like put it because I like to do this thing. They understood what it was for. And one of them is really a small thing, and it just gave me the old Nollywood feel when you are in danger, that sound. So we see the maid going to give Areloke the bowl that have the poison, and they just play that danger sound. Even without her acting nervous or anything, we just knew that anybody could just infer that this is likely going to be a poison. Okay, we see the slow motion to show us love at first sight between Areloke and Saru. So like they weren't just using slow mo because I could do slow mo. They were using it to show us something and to even make it more big or more effective. They had this flute sound, or maybe it's not a flute. It was an instrumental, and I bought into their love. Okay, so the music, the music throughout this movie was sweet, soft, and succulent. I did not hear noise. I had no single problem with the music. Okay, and even for people that were singing in the movie, the only time that it was loud was needed because they were mourning Akina. That woman went loud. I understood it. So like it was just perfect. It was perfect. Okay. And this movie was so good that they didn't want me to drag them. They made sure that they had background, or you will watch and you want to drag them, but then you see the excuses that was kept in the movie. So they were covering their loophole. So I know on Twitter I was saying something like Remi Oyo is not good. It's not good, girl. Shebi they told you it's from Gongo. What's your problem? Okay, it's not from Oyo Kingdom. So we see things like Areloke refusing the king's one night, then another night she's converting the king. I was shocked, but then again, if you look at it, you see that during the day, the women called her barren. So she was just trying to pay them, or she was just trying to pay them back. So this movie, like even the hunter that they met on out of their evil, when out of their that they met when they were leaving the evil forest. It was being nice. His countenance changed, but you could see that his countenance changed because of when they mentioned evil forest. So I felt like this movie writing was so good. They gave us background. If you have to look for loophole, it's because you want to find loophole, and definitely I found loophole. But it was really good. It was made for us to enjoy this movie. They cared about the viewers. They really, really cared about the viewers. And for acting performances, I would say everyone was good. Yes. Um, I feel like you have to start. I used to nitpick acting performances when a movie is bad, and I just want to like um not let the actors' efforts be a waste. But for this movie, I felt everyone was good. Even the extras, though, the daughters that were looking for beat, they were good. Okay, and because Saro's Kunle Remy playing Saro caused a lot of controversy. I only talk on his acting. So like Vanessa have said, the beginning it said a little word. It said little words. Like Kunle's face showed me it was naive. As a stranger in the village, it was acting awkward. Like it didn't need to say much for me to know that it was a stranger. It was scared. It was trying to take his time to do things. Okay. And it was so innocent. He acted so innocently when we needed him to be innocent, talking about he's looking for a weaver, this, that. When we wanted him to be jealous, he was jealous. And that was after Aroran met Kunle Afolayan. And when we wanted him to be pompous, it was also pompous. So I felt like I don't know the controversies that's going on. Kunle Remy was the man for the job in this movie. And yeah, so that is all for me. This movie was really, really good. Acting, directing, producing, cinematography, sound, everything you could think about. This movie was good.
All right, thanks, Cynthia. Very exhaustive list. I know you found some bads, but if not, don't worry, we got you covered. We will discuss some things later. But everyone here, we're just talking about the good section. It's nice to have a lot of people for the goods because we know the bads usually attract some attention. Feel free to tell people when that starts happening that we have discussed it, please. All right, I'm just going to give it to Mrs. C just because she has to dash off in a bit to say her side of the good. But go on, Mrs. C.
Okay. There's not really that much new to add after Cynthia and Fida and Vanessa and Dika and everybody.
Yes.
Basically, yeah. So anyway, I'm just going to reiterate Shola fucking Shobowale. That woman is a queen. This was, I will say yes, after the first King of Boys, this is my favorite Shola Shobowale performance. This is the exact performance I needed to see from Shola because more recently we've had her in loud roles, right? And the impact she was having with just her measured, quietly delivered lines was just beautiful. Like we watched this with some friends, and when she was giving Saru that set down, like the first set down she gives Saru when he starts asking her, who is this? And she laughs and then she starts telling him and we're like, oof. But then when she goes into the room and she's telling him, no, I want to know a woman that will respect you. And that's not me. I'm like, tell him. So the delivery was just absolutely fantastic. Like, when he started sleeping with the queen and she was, just giving him that warning, and she's giving it to him just quietly. And you can see the look on her face. Like, it's like this, when an elder is telling you something and they're like, this small Pekin is not really listening to it. Was just perfect. It was absolutely perfect the way she was delivering all of that. She was fantastic.
Okay.
I thought Kunle Remy was good, actually. I liked him as Saru. I wouldn't swap him with you know who for Saru. I think he was cast fine. I think he looked good. I think he had that. I think he was able to do that.
Wow.
No offense
Well, we're
to anyone.
We're doing all the same points.
Allow me now. I think he was able to do that because Saru was stupid, right? As a character, Saru was stupid. And he could do that look, that dumb look that I thought was characteristic of Saru. Kunle Afolayan, I think, is great with set design and with production design. And I think he really put a lot into this. Because I think I'd mentioned before that we had taken production design for granted because Kunle always kind of did it. And then we saw a few atrocious production designs, not from Kunle, but we saw a few atrocious production designs that were like, wait, no, all right, we can't go back to not counting it because it's not a thing that everyone does. So I'll give Kunle that. I thought that was great. I loved that. While I do have some problems with the story, I loved that it went from A to B to C. No stupid twists. No twist for the sake of being a twist, right? No random things added for shock value, right? None of that. It was A, it was B, it was C. It was simple, right? You had an idea about how it was going to end, right? And that was perfectly fine. We didn't have to bring in something random for excitement or drama or, just for the sake of a twist. And I love that. And like, we've been punished with so many twists recently. It was just really nice to have a story that goes from the beginning to the end in a relatively logical manner. So yeah, that was that. I thought it was fun. I enjoy epics and yes, compared to the last epic that everyone was talking about, this is a significant upgrade from that last epic. I didn't feel a bit dirty about rooting for whoever. I didn't root for anyone, but I didn't feel dirty about the conclusion. And it was, and I'm really happy because I haven't really liked the last few things Kunle Afolayan has put out, and I'm really happy he seems to be returning to form.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. C. We'll see you when we see you. Just going to read out a couple of comments that have come through. The screenwriter of Aníkúlápó, though, there's dialogues, the characters were not saying too much, and we could understand them. Izemo, sorry, that was from Amy. Izemo says, Izemo of Kaduna says, when you people start talking about the bad Omar, I'm signing out. I mean, I love the movie too much for you to spoil it for me. That is perfectly fine. All right. Okay, so we'll go to, I think we have, I think Damalash is next, and then we'll go to me. I think that, Damala, if you're there.
I'm here, guys. Sorry, I'm in the middle of something, but I will try and be brief. So I really love this as well. I think it's still my second favorite Kunle Afolayan after October 1. I might go back and watch the film. I think everybody's kind of talked about like the casting, the acting, everything. So I think what kind of stood out for me, I'll start with, I think, the attention to detail, and attention to detail, not just in the production design, great, the plastic and everything, but little subtle things like the sound design. For example, there were times when I literally felt like I could hear people folding. Like there were sometimes like, some of the ladies would like adjust, their wrapper and stuff, and you could almost hear it tightening. And, in one particular scene, it was where the elder queen came to warn. Well, she brought the mirror to Bimbo's character, and you obviously knew that she wasn't there with good intentions and everything. But I think there was a part where she like kind of tightened her wrapper while she was talking, and I could almost hear it tightening, and it just gave the scene a bit more tension there between them, like somebody strangling someone. And it was all over the place in other places as well. It was in, the kind of like looks that the characters, gave each other. Like, obviously Kunle Remy drawing Saro drawing looks from, female characters who were just kind of looking at him and stuff. Those little looks, just very subtle but just so effective. I particularly liked a stand-up performance for me. I was actually Mr. Macaroni's character. um I just thought like his interaction with Saro was great. Like when, the big scene that they had where he came and kind of told him mischievously that, you know, you don't, what happens in the market at night or whatever. And he just, what there was a lot of eye play in this film that was subtle yet effective. And I think that was another one of those scenes where like his eyes said everything about what was, going on, and everything was like, is it danger, is it, but there was just something very mischievous in his eyes there. And I think that was just great. It was another part where like I think eye play really came in and just like, was so effective, was when uh when Bimbo's character first suggested that they run away. I remember pausing it and almost falling out of my chair laughing because she says, let's run away. And then Saru kind of leans in and goes, eh? But it wasn't just the way he went, eh? It was like in his eyes, like, am I hearing what I'm really hearing? Um, and I thought that was just really effective. So, just stuff like that. The use of lighting as well in a lot of the scenes just gave like, so just made the environment itself kind of a character. The way like obviously like their windows and stuff would cast shadows on their faces and everything. It felt very non-intentional, but in such a good way. It just felt like they were in this environment and things were happening, but it was still speaking so much. So all those little subtleties for me were great as well. I like the fact that the fantasy, even though it was kind of central, obviously, but in a lot of ways, it also felt on the fringe. It wasn't like everybody was just casting spells at each other and stuff like that. I know it's not, it depends on the story, but the fantasy element of this kingdom felt like it was on the fringe, and I really like that. I like understated things like that, in fantasy or in sci-fi. I like it when it's kind of on the edge of things, as opposed to like right there in the middle of everything happening. So that was another one for me. And then I think I'll just say finally, like I really did like. I mean, I had a discussion with a friend of mine yesterday where I was saying that, and it's something I didn't like, but I'll say in terms of the story, the fable kind of, the fable structure of the story, I think worked well. It didn't, like you said, it wasn't twisting and didn't try to do too much. Kind of gave us a straight up tale. I think it was really a character study. I will talk about some of that in the bad because there were things I didn't like about that as well. But as a concept, and just in, kind of, in kudos to Kunle Afolayan, because I also agree that he does best. I think he just has a major love for his culture, and he does best when he's portraying that. And so I just felt like the fable, and even the thing that I didn't like, which was the fable structure, and the fact that at some point I actually felt like I was watching two movies. I think it worked well because it was part of the whole.
I think we've lost you a little bit there. All right. We've lost them a little bit, but I think we got the general gist. Yes, we'll talk about the two story parts in the second half of this. I think we have Tumi. Sorry, TFR. Sorry, Tumi. We'll get to you, but TFR had a problem with her mic last time. Let me just check if it's working now. TFR, are you there? And is your mic working?
Yes, I'm there. I'm here.
Okay, all right, let's go.
Okay. So I actually really like this film. So I have a couple of likes. So I liked I'm going to just go over the ones I think like a lot of people have said: production design, performances, seeing a new Shola and all of that. I like the use of flashbacks. I think they were well used here. I actually really like the use of flashbacks. especially when, we didn't know the outcome of her drinking that poison, but I like the way it was revealed to us. I think that was really clever. I mean, they could have easily just, made it linear, the next scene, we see what happened and everything, but I like that it was as a narration to sorrow, and they showed us, the aftermath. I also liked the montage of them, traveling through the wilderness. That's the best term I can think of. Traveling through the wilderness, different weathers. You see them, their clothes scattered up and down, and all of that. I liked that whole, the montage traveling through the wilderness. I think that was really good. I also really enjoyed the performances by, I feel like a lot of people haven't really talked about the performances of, the other queens. Especially I really like the one, I don't know her name. I don't know the names of most of these people. There was one that I know that she didn't want the her to play with her daughter and everything. I really liked that one's performance. I don't know her name. So I think, a lot of the supporting characters still did well. Even the gossips, because one thing I really don't like is bad, like, day players and like wakapas act like, okay, day players. I don't like when they cannot act, And those guys that were gossiping about what was happening and everything, they even acted well. So it was good to see that even these people acted well, as so what else has nobody really said? I like the font as well. I like the font. I feel like it gave it its own, like, unique look. I feel like people don't really pay much attention to, title cards and stuff, but they did here, and I think it worked, especially with what the story was trying to say. I think the storytelling was really good. I think it was one of the best from Nollywood I've seen this year. I think followed like proper structure and everything. So I think that was really good. What else? What else? What else? Yeah, I think, yeah, costume and makeup. I think the tribal marks were really believable because I feel even when his beard had grown, you could see how, I don't know, um the beard was feeling in the tribal marks or something like that. I think that really worked, and I think that was quite good. Um, yeah. And also there were some, comedic parts that really worked well. When I liked, the scene where they raised the grandma from dead and she was like, "Who sent you?" Like, I was literally like happy to die. I think that was really funny. I enjoyed that scene. That was a funny scene. Um yeah, so I think yeah, so those are my likes. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, TFR. And to even recap some of the things I think Damala pointed out, was talking about sound design, and yes, sound design was something that I really enjoyed about this film. I remember I was switching from the Yoruba original to the English dub because I wanted to check whether what I was hearing was actually just sounds that the mic picked up or whether it was added in post. Because if you add it in post, it's easy to just quieten down just replace the dialogue with the dub and just put on the sound design. And yes, it was indeed good sound design. So that was something that actually I appreciated. But what a nice thing to say that sound design it's looking better. It wasn't perfect, but it was much better than usual. To me, please go on.
All right, I'm here. It's just balancing DBN finale with this. So sorry. I'll be quick. I watched this movie with someone who is not Nigerian, not African. So a few things from a foreigner who was watching this. And we watched the dub version. I could pick up some of the Yoruba from reading some people's lines, but from his perspective, he liked how it was filmed. So just how it looked. It looked really pretty. Colors came alive. The location came alive. The people came alive. He liked the dubbing, the English dubbing, because in some cases, sometimes the dubbing is awful. So for him, the fact that it was English dub did not deter from the flow of the movie, the flow of the story. He liked the acting, and it had authenticity. So those were the four main things from the perspective of foreigner who is not Nigerian, not Yoruba, not even from the continent, anywhere at all. Now, for me, my favorite part is the ashoke. I don't know if anyone's mentioned this before, so apologies for repeating what someone else has said. The clothing, I loved it. Like, I want to buy some pieces. I loved seeing ashoke in all its, not ashoke, but tie and dye, and all of the different clothing materials that they used. It was beautiful to watch that come alive. And the previous speaker before the one who spoke last, how they talked about the food and the way it was presented in Korean dramas, the similarity there, that's what the clothing did for me. I loved the clothing pieces on the women in the different patterns, the different styles, the different tie and dye methods. Beautiful to watch. I really enjoyed the food display. I like that the ending was open ended. But another thing I did like is the way the intimacy scenes were done. I have an issue with one of them, but we'll get to that later. But they were not awkward to watch. Well, except for that one part. All the intimacy scenes with the queen, with Ogogo, with I forgot her name, the main lead woman, with the guy, the two men, when there were some intimacy scenes with, I really, really liked them. And the one with Kunle, it was really, really tastefully done. It was really well done. It was art. I like that there was music, so it wasn't, we're not hearing them moan. Thank God, because that one always just comes off weird. But the intimacy scenes did not feel awkward to watch as a viewer. So for that, I'm truly grateful for, because that's for me is like the biggest improvement with Nigerian movies. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Timmy. I appreciate the thoughts and the conciseness as well. All right. Best African speaker. Best African actor.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, so let me just get straight to it. I think a lot of people have said some of the things I would like to see, but I'll just try to be fast about it. Yeah, so I like the story. Maybe because I'm Yoruba man. I actually like the story. I enjoyed the story. I like the fact that an African, or a Nigerian as it were, is telling an African story in the Nigerian way. And then people can understand, okay, this is what our culture is all about. Even if they can't see 1/10 of what our culture is, they can still have a feeling of, okay, this is what this culture is about. It did some show of the pottery, the foods, just like someone mentioned the other time. So you can tell that, okay, this is just like when we watch Philippine films. And then even though we are watching the English dubbed version, we can still understand that, okay, I've not lived in the Philippines before, but I think I know a little bit of their culture from their films. I think Aníkúlápó will not be streamlined to Nigerian audience or Africa or Yoruba people alone. Even if you are a foreigner, if you watch it, you can, especially if you watch the English and what's it called, you can tell that, okay, this is what they're trying to say. I like the directing. A lot of people have talked about the actors. Yeah, the actors were superb, but the directing was very, very good. It was very, very good. Mr. Kunle Afolayan deserves his flowers, because some of these actors, especially the veterans, if you watch them in other films, especially Yoruba films, if you watch them, you can be able to tell that, okay, there are sometimes that they say too much, they go beyond the lines, the camera just spend 5 minutes on one person talking about several irrelevant things. But in this place, everybody strictly followed even if I've not seen the script, I can tell that no, these people actually strictly followed their line, and then their acting did the rest for them. Especially if you watch some of these chiefs, especially that fair one, and very popular, I've forgotten his name. Like you watch them in other films, you can tell, okay, maybe they are abusing someone and then they are saying very, very funny things. But in this place, no, they weren't doing that. Everybody was very, very serious. I like that, and I think that's something we should credit the director for. The production design was very fine. Most Kunle Afolayan films, if you watch them, because I'm a very, very big fan of Kunle Afolayan. Let me say, he's my favorite director in the country. If you watch, I would expect that, okay, Partnerbo is going to be the sets man. But for this film, I don't think it was Partnerbo. I think it was someone else. So that made me feel, okay, maybe they are trying to do something separate from what they've been doing before. And the acting too is very, very good. The casting made sense. I think the Ikorodu boys, they did well. I think they were the ones that were learning under Saro. I think they did well. Mr. Macaroni too. If you watch Mr. Macaroni in this film and you watch Mr. Macaroni's skit, you can't tell that he's the same person. and that's why I think he's a very very good actor, because you can't tell that this is Mr. Macaroni. He did something entirely different from who he is. So, and also Rocco Iwenla, maybe I should call him the Hand of the King. That man was excellent. Like, he was very very excellent. His delivery and the fact that he actually understand that Yoruba, it was very very great. It was very great. Then color, yes. I don't think anyone has talked about color yet. Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has talked about color yet. No, the color was dope. The color was dope. The color of the film was dope. And then finally, I would say it's the first time. This might kind of sound childish, but then it's the first time I'll watch a film like this in a long time, and I'll be able to say, okay, I have some lessons to learn that are kind of useful to me and to a lot of people, that because most times if I check people's status, I think since this film came out maybe 3 days ago, everyone is kind of talking about the same things. It kind of brings back this old Nollywood films whereby you watch and then your parents will tell you, okay, were you able to learn this? Were you able to learn that? I think the lessons were very, very clear and straight to the point. And finally, I think I'll just say kudos to the cast and the crew of this film. They really, really did well. And I'm happy that we are beginning to see African stories being told by Africans and not just by maybe Africans in diaspora or something like that. And then they will just kind of model up the whole thing. The fact that they were able to talk about our culture, they were able to talk about, explain how the dead is being buried in Yoruba land, that kind of thing. It really, really made sense. So this film is very, very good for me. Thank you very much, everyone.
You. And last but not the least speaker, Ewere, please tell us the things you like about Aníkúlápó.
Thank you. So I'll just keep it really simple. I think the first thing I liked was that you could feel that it was like a world of its own, and then those were actors and not just an extension of the actor's real life. So they're well scripted. You could like imagine yourself in this character's shoes and what you would do, and it's very like, I've not seen that in a long while in like Nigerian movies. You really can't tell that it's the same people. Like, it was well scripted and it felt like a world of its own. And then I also like that there was a point to the movie. Like I've mentioned, I haven't seen that in a while. Like, it feels like people were just doing like movies and really no point to it. But this one felt like there was a point to the movie. And I think the last thing was just something really, really little that I really liked, was the fact that I didn't see like Bimbo's tattoo. So Bimbo's tattoo is like in a very visible place. And if you know her, you know that she has a tattoo. But there was a scene where she was like tying like the wrapper and you could see her shoulders, and I like that he made an effort to cover the tattoo. So it's just the little things that I really liked about the movie, and also like the child actors not being so cringe. Yeah, it was a really lovely movie.
Oh, thank you. All right. I think most people have said all of the goods, but I guess I could run through mine. There might be a couple of things some people haven't mentioned. So the gossips from the second half of the movie, I thought was a nice throwback to old Nollywood, where the gossips were talking about, I remember like during our credits, we used to have Gossip 1 and Gossip 2. It's nice to just go back. It feels like a nice throwback. And they were male. Usually they were women. So male representation in gossiping. Finally, that's what we've been asking for. I thought the pacing of this film was good. This is a 2-hour, 22-minute film, and I didn't feel bored during any part of this film. I felt like it was achieving one of the three things in my head, where like it was either showing you something interesting, it was moving the plot forward, or it was adding some interesting characterization or world building. I think it was always doing one of these. I think maybe I have one scene where I think it's part of world building, but I think you could have probably cut that out. But like I'm thinking about, I think there's a scene where the kings are discussing taxes, but we can discuss that in the second half. But yeah, aside that, like I think the first time I watched it, I was I was like still very interested in the world, and it's nice to just have that in the film. People have talked about acting, so I'm not going to touch on that. But I will say it's nice to see Kunle Bimba like really putting themselves, like if you watch this film, Kunle drags himself through a lot of dirt, things that look like they would hurt in real life, honestly, and certainly get their hands dirty literally for this. I think TFR talked about some of the landscapes whilst in the quote unquote wilderness. I thought they were really, really beautiful shots there. I don't know where those locations were found, but they were really nice. And it was really cool for them to do different terrains to show, the longevity of their journey. And like, they went from this terrain to this terrain. That's really good storytelling. Sound design, I think I had mentioned briefly. I think it's good. I mentioned the thing about flipping and to dub to check. I do have a couple of exceptions. I think footsteps is still a thing we can fine tune. And there's one cinema since sound effects that I'm not a big fan of. That if you watch Cinema Sins, I don't know how you watched that and didn't went thrown off. But I think even without, I thought it was used a little too much. But we're doing good. I think the budget is very much visible. It's nice to see, like, it feels like the village was a character on its own. Both villages were actual characters. The extras felt like another, I mean, like, as one unit, they felt as another character. So, like, it didn't feel like just like maybe a room and parlor but in the village setting. But like, these people felt like part of this place, which is another good credit to the world building. And I think aside all the other things people have mentioned, that's my things that I appreciated about this. All right. So we are going into the bad. I did take some people off just because we needed to rotate. I'm trying to remember the person's name. King T Jags. If you are still there, please, sorry, I moved you off. You can request again, and we'll have you on to say the things that you didn't like as much. All right, in the film. All right. I said to Mrs. C, because a lot of people like the story, we're going to do a thing where we are going to do this one part first. So just in case you want to respond to this before you say you're bad, you can go ahead. All right. So let's say, do you want to say the part of the story you didn't?
Yeah, so I have mentioned that I do like that the story went from A to B to C, and it was more coherent, no twist. But there were problems in the storytelling that affected me, and my enjoyment of some things, and the believability of some characters and their motivations. I'll start with the scene where Aralake, is that her name? Where Aralake meets Saru in the moonlight, right? And pushes him down and gets on top of him, and so we have a few flashbacks where they look at each other and all that. But there are so many things missing in the build-up of this relationship that was supposed to be pivotal to the rest of the story, right? It's such a defining thing in how the story happens and why he gets murdered by the village, right? Why the bird, he has that whole thing with the bird, and she's willing to run away with him, right? Run away from the only life she's ever known. She stays with his body overnight after the villagers, kill him, fights a spirit for him, and there was no build-up of that relationship. It was skipped over. There was just a shorthand of them, looking at each other. I would understand it more with like Shola's character, but it was skipped over, and we spent time on some other things, and time could have been spent on that relationship development. So when she tells him, let's run away together, I don't understand why. right? I don't buy that they have a relationship deep enough for her to say, let's run away together. I don't buy that they have a relationship deep enough for, okay, that plan has gone tits up, right? And she still stays around for him. I don't buy that the relationship is deep enough for her to stay with his dead body overnight and fight a spirit for his corpse. It just didn't work. That they skipped that bit for me. Then Saro's character, I know Vanessa et al. Will fight me over this, but Saro's character switch from, I know some Vanessa and who have said they saw it in his eyes, right? That Saro was, we didn't see, I didn't see it in Saro's eyes, right? And I wish there had been one or two things that were written in there as an indication of who Saro turned out to be, right? All we saw of Saro in the beginning was just this naive follow. You get what I mean? Like he was followed. And I've talking about this film with the people I watched it with and some other people. Some people thought Saro was basically like sexually assaulted, right, by these women. Because the way the writing or the way the story was told and the writing was, Saro was really just portrayed as somebody who they are using here, they are using there, right? And then Saro turns out to be this abusive rapist, just terrible person. And there was no indication from the first half of this film that this is who Saro was. We just take a time leap and this is Saro. And it's like just a few lines here and there in the beginning, right? A few lines here and there in his first life. Like when she tells him, let's run away together, right? And then she suggests going back to the palace, right, to collect some jewels. If Saro had been the one to suggest, hey, do you have jewels you can go pick up? Small red flag rings, right? His whole relationship with Shola Shobole's character, all she did was give him stuff, right? The most we saw him was he protested about her relationship with another man, right? He was jealous about her being with another man. We never saw him request any of those things. Never saw any hint of ambition in him, right? Any indication that this was in him. So when that switch happens, when I see Saro being a rapist, I'm shocked. I'm like, this wasn't written into his character, not in the first half, right? If he sees her and she catches his eye and he tries to position himself, that I would have even understood. But like Saro being, it just, you know, so there were a few shortcuts in the writing. Then things like the, when we were doing, because we were going to do a trailer breakdown for this, and then we ended up not doing it. But part of the things we talked about, Mr. C said, this is going to be mostly a love story, and like the mysticism is going to take a backseat. The magic, the mysticism is going to take a backseat, which it mostly did. Like there were so many things built up, or there were so many things in there that had no payoff, which for those ones, I'm not saying it's necessarily that much. I'm just saying they would have added so much to the story, right? Because even when I was watching it, I asked, is there no offset in the balance with all these people dying, but not dying, right? Like what happens when people who should be dying don't die? We have the chief priest talking about it, the consequences of playing with that kind of power, but nothing happens. There is no payoff to all of that. And it's just puts in there and skips. There was, for me, there was a lot to love about Aníkúlápó, right? Absolutely a lot to love. But don't tell me this writing was flawless. I'll square up.
Okay, so Mr. C obviously still have my points, but yes, that I think I don't agree that either Sarah or what's Bimbo's character's name, whatever her name is like a consistent characters. They always do things that I don't understand why. So I don't even, to be honest, I'm not even sure what they're supposed to be last, because I'm not going to go over what Mrs. C has said, but yes, I have that issue with, and like, it's so unnecessary because like, just if Sarah was the guy who instigated all this flirtation, problem fixed, then we can buy him as somebody who is chasing. We talk about like, I wouldn't have bought it if he like go for the jewels, because again, not so much. If he had instigated, let's run away though. After like, then maybe that is a sign of and then the jewels.
Yeah.
Right. Then that is a little bit of this guy has a thing. I know people don't think there is no real twist in this, but like that's what his character turning out to be an abusive rapist feels like. It feels like a twist that I'm not sure why it happened. Like I think there are a couple of other things regarding just how those two became like that first half of the story. I think works on its own. It doesn't need. I think it would have. I wouldn't have been wondering about why parts two of both Bimbo's character. Sorry, I can't remember her name, and I can't remember. So what's his name? So right. I don't know why they went the way they went. This might be another Lionheart. I'm ready though. All right. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I know. King T Jags had something to say, and then we'll go to you, Vanessa, and then Elizabeth, and then you guys can either say your bad and have some rebuttal, because I just know everybody seemed to like the story. I just wanted to say this one up there so everybody has a chance to respond to it, because the story for me is deeply flawed. It's deeply flawed. All right, King T Jags, what did you want to say?
Okay, hello guys. Now, concerning the things I don't like about the movie, like, first of all, the movie was like, if you are watching films these days, like, one thing you will notice is going straight to the point. Most movies you see with high, good ratings these days are the ones that go very, very straight to the point. Compared to what we saw on the trailer, I don't think there was any need for the first half of the movie. Like, for over like 50 minutes or like 1 hour, it was totally, let me say, 90% different from what we saw on the trailer. And the part that even did justice to what we saw on the trailer was just like 30% of the movie. And even if you look at the description of the movie on Netflix, you see the one who holds death in his pockets. So watching the movie and going to like 50%, 50 minutes to 1 hour, you won't see anything relating to that. I feel like they had all the time to like, I think they should be able to take reshoots and, the editing. Even if reshoot was not possible, like the editing part, it's very possible to run a movie simultaneously where you know what is happening in the past and at the same time you will be moving forward. I've watched many movies that happened that way, and at the end of the day, you would arrive at the same bus stop. That first half could have somehow mixed with the part where they got to Ojumo. I felt like the movie should have started when they got to Ojumo, because that was when the movie actually, to me, that was when I felt like, okay, the movie actually kicked off. And another thing again I did not like about the movie is, okay, you call this thing the Akala bed, it has spiritual powers. Like, I've never seen any place or any fiction that you just go and take one mystical power, especially when it has to do with bringing death to life, that has no repercussion. Like, he was just using it and using it and using it, and the Akala bed was just like, okay, let him use Sabi. All those kind of things. Like, somehow they were supposed to be, even before the ending, when they found out that she has emptied the stuff inside the god, there should have been a point where, like, this thing is not going to work now. Like, I've just been using it, and everybody was just resurrecting. There should have been a repercussion for using that. I think that should have played a good, should have made the movie a little bit better. And the bed self, it did not even fight for what belongs to him. The thing just left. Or even if there was no repercussion, the bed at least should have been like haunting him or doing something. But at the end of the day, the thing just left him alone till the Arolake just emptied the stuff in the god and the thing no longer worked again. And also, if you are going to act a movie about love or you like one queen, all those kind of stuffs, okay, you can act that. And if you are going to act a movie about someone that has the power to resurrect death, you can also act that, fine. And at the same time, if you want to mix the two together to act one single film, you are free to do that. But acting one movie, the film felt like this part was like this and this part was like this. And if you look at it, it showed like few relations to the former things that would have happened. That's why I said that they could have kind of find a way to run both parts simultaneously. That's why I said the movie should have even started when they got to.
Okay, I think we've lost King Tejax, but King Tejax wanted the more action-packed side of the thing. I think, yeah, well,
because
I
that was
understand.
actually what we saw in the trailer. So you understand. And there are ways in which you can actually act the love part mixed with the action part together, and it would still work perfectly. That we won't like. There are, in literature, there's subject matter and there are themes. Inside the subject matter, you would still have other themes that they are touching inside. So I've even forgotten most of the things. So, but another person can take the mic, shall let us hear.
All right, thanks, King T Jags. Just one scene I want to use to cement like the transition to this part. It's the scene where I think it's the second time they've like had sex, and it's Bimbo and Kunle's characters, and we haven't seen any other sort of like real communication between them.
Mm-hmm.
And Bimbo starts professing her love and saying like, she says something along the line of, she's never known happiness like this, which I guess if, maybe if, you've been, but like, if that's the thing, right? Like, I don't know what Bimbo's character is. She smart, the smart, cunning, like devious person that she turns out to, not devious, but like, she's shown to be smart. Or is she naive? Is she a naive person? Like, that's what I mean by like, it didn't feel consistent. So she professes her love, and then they talk about their stories where she was a child bride, and he's 50 cents. He wants to get rich or die trying, right? But like, is he really? Has he really been? Have we seen him trying to get rich? Like, things just have been thrown onto his lap at this point. He hasn't done anything. She says this means this is destiny. I'm like, it's like, this isn't the strong female. I don't know, like, it just seems like quite a silly character, and it's not the character that we've been shown. Like, this person has been pushing back against the king and the wives and all of this, and then he says something along the he says like, no, that's crazy, and then that's dangerous. And then he remembers Shola telling him, I don't want you in trouble. And then he changes his mind. I'm like, I'm sure maybe that means something. I don't know what that means, because like, I think earlier on they had done a flashback, which is what sort of is crazy about people's love of flashbacks, because like, I didn't even understand some of the reason why they did this, because like, earlier on they had done a thing where he had done the flashback, and what the person had said, he took the advice from flashback, and this time he was doing a flashback, and he decided, Dr. Ann was like, I don't know why he's going. It's like, why shows the flashback? Yeah. It's like rebelling against the thought you put us there. Anyway, but that's the thing. All right, so I think Vanessa was the one who put up her hand first. So the pushback, if you want, and
I might be disappointing in this, but yes, I will have pushback and also sort of agree. So Yes, I saw the duplicity in Saro's eyes. It's not me that close you people eye that you people cannot see is a duplicitous person. Me, I saw it. I don't know about the rest of you, but me, I opened my eye, my koro eye, and I saw it.
Are you sure it's eye or chest you were looking at? What are you looking at, Vanessa? Tell us the truth.
I can look at two things at the same time. People should leave me.
Take us to the blood. Go on.
No, but I'm gonna go on. I do agree though that that it did feel like a lot was missing in the telling of this love story. I don't even know if I consider it a love story because there's not enough to consider it a love story. That I do agree with. The scene in the forest did throw me off a bit, as well as I did find the nudity a bit gratuitous, but I will say though, with regards to Saro's duplicitous nature, while it may have come across like stuff was just falling in his lap, and he wasn't doing a lot, there was a lot of action in his inaction. And I hate going back to the scene where they're talking to each other and he mentions his past and Mr. C says this is his get rich or die trying thing, but he hasn't really done anything. Saro seems to be crippled by his history as a slave, having always taken orders. He's not really known how to do. He's just always sort of followed. And so it makes sense that in this transitionary period, coming into a Oyo kingdom and having these things fall into his lap per se, it's his way of doing, I guess. We see it in his reaction to Debo Macaroni's character coming to tell him that, Baba, you're basically a sugar baby. He wasn't offended, you know. This is not somebody who was like, why are you this? And his uproar wasn't at being called a sugar baby or anger at feeling like he was being taken advantage of. No. The only thing that he mentioned was, do people know that this is what is happening? That's the only thing really that he was concerned about. He wasn't concerned about whether or not he was being taken advantage of, in quotes. That's where I say there's action in his inaction, because in that very moment it was apparent that he was down with sex for board and food. That he was down for that. So this wasn't a thing of this falling into his lap. So it may have originally begun with falling into his lap, but from that moment on, he rolled with the punches. And he was like, so this is what has happened to me. I'm going to take advantage of it to the best of my ability that I can and enjoy myself while doing it. Which was why when he confronted Shola Shobowale, this wasn't coming from a place of a jealous lover. This was him worrying about losing his meal ticket. Those were the tiny little flags about his duplicitous nature. This was someone who wasn't about to lose the person who set up shop for him. You know, he wasn't about to lose the person who's been giving him food, giving him clothing, giving him a house, set up a business for him, referred clients to him. This is him saying, who is this man that is about to encroach on my enjoyment of life, of this new life that I'm settled into? It was in those little moments that I personally, the rest of you that did not open your eye to see that this man is greedy. Somebody that was franking his face, the small rub of chest and saying, king wife and his children want Ashofi. He turned around, is excited. It was those moments for me that were an inkling into his, into what you guys say is Saro in the second half of the film. Another key moment for me was the bird's decision to say, you deserve to die. If all in all, you people say you do not see his duplicitous nature at all from the beginning to that point where the bird says, you are deserving of death, go back to your death. That moment in itself should have been a light bulb moment for us about where this film was headed, about where this character was headed. Because then you would be wondering, okay, this all happened to him. This was through no fault of his. He was a victim of circumstance. Why is this bird, who is apparently fair and just, saying that this man deserves to die and doesn't deserve a second chance? The bird saw something that the rest of you didn't see, and me, I opened my third eye and I saw is that even though it came across like this man was innocent, he wasn't. He was an active participant, even in the moments that appeared to be inaction, and was a telling of who this man was going to be. Now, do I agree with the change of him being a rapist and a violent man? No, I probably wouldn't have taken the story in that direction. But that moment with the bird was definitely a short telling of where this character was going to go. Now, I'm going to go into my own dislikes. I feel like the moment with the bird was a defining moment, and the story could have gone multiple ways. I agreed that it felt odd that there weren't any repercussions as to they're using the god of life to resurrect people. I feel like Elizabeth and I share this. I genuinely thought he was awakening an army of zombies, um, especially in the way these people rose up from the dead, and the dazed, glazed look in their eyes. I genuinely just thought these people were gonna arise and we would have a Walking Dead scenario. Not in that way, but I just feel like there were repercussions that were supposed to come, because death is such a heavy thing to carry around. And then he's carrying death and life in that little god. I feel like the weight of that should have been more reflected in Saru. And I feel like it weirdly enough was reflected physically, at least, on Arolake. I don't know how she aged that fast. I feel like because and this is me just theorizing, because what else can I do? I think because she was the one who actually stole the god from the bird, I guess the weight of carrying around death and life in both their hands was showing on her, but I wish it had shown more. And it didn't have to be in an outlandish way, like zombies walking around in the village, or the bird going around killing people, or something that drastic. But I felt like there was a way for Saro to carry the heavy weight of holding death and life in his hands, and it would have done more than turning him into a rapist and a violent man. But that genuinely it's just me. What else don't I like? I think a lot of our dislikes are mainly in the second half. I felt like the flashback, the king's flashback towards the end of the film was unnecessary. What else? I don't again, it's with the development of Arolake's character. And this is also pushed back to Mr. C. Why can't Arolake both be naive and somewhat smart? I feel like it's very much in keeping with her character, because this is someone who was taken to a palace at 15. She's naive in every sense of the word. She's not had known anything other than life in the palace. So in many ways, she's naive about the ways of the world. And so she can deceive herself and fool herself into thinking she's in love with a man who she's only had maybe 3 to 4 encounters with, whatever. But she's also smart in the sense that she's had to navigate living in an environment that
Hello?
wasn't in her favor. And so she can be both. However, I do take issue with how they wrote her character to just sit back and take it when she found out about Saro's betrayal and the raping of her maiden, and invariably marrying her and marrying more wives. I just feel like they should have written, this is a personal grouse, I feel like it would have done more to move the story if they had allowed her to take her power back in small ways and then climax it in her taking back what she gave him, which was the god of life. But that's just me as a person. But yeah.
All right. You want to say?
I just want to do a bit of pushback, which you kind of did yourself. it's your thing on why can't she both be naive and smart? But there was so much contradiction in who her character actually was, right? Because yes, humans are multifaceted, right? She was brought into the palace at 15. She's young. She was young. She's only had that life. But she's also had to deal with snakes, right? Throughout her time in the palace. The other wives were vicious to her. And we see the bit where one wife pisses her off. So she fakes being sick on her night, and the king comes to her, and she, which I cheered for when she did, by the way, right? Because I'm like, yes, show that witch, right? So we see her have some of that. She's brash enough to show up and basically, let's go with proposition Saru in the woods, right? She's bold enough to go, let's run away. She's bold enough to sleep on his corpse, right? The corpse that villagers have beat. They could have come back at any minute, right? She was brave enough to stay, brave enough to fight a spirit and steal the god of life. So who was this character, right? She was brave enough to tell him, look, this is our way, right? This is how we change our life. Take this god, go and heal this child, wake this child up. And then we see her aged, being bullied by somebody who used to be her maid and someone else, and she just sits there and takes it for I don't know how many years, because suddenly she is a grandmother now and Saro's character is still fresh, right? They decided to age her for some reason. This is, her naivety is not balancing with...
I mean, like, I think if you excuse that, you can excuse anything within the realms of, you can be naive and you can be super smart, well, then you've covered everything from anything really stupid to anything really smart you can do. That's what it's not that, it's not that people can be more, it's just like your character should
be consistent.
Consistent in
her just taking it for an indeterminable number of years did not seem... in character, because even when she was in the palace as a young wife who was ashamed of her barrenness, right, and was still trying to be nice to the other wives, she still had moments where she tried to stand up for herself and take some things for herself and get her own licks in.
All right, let's go to a couple other people. Elizabeth, I'm going to come to you in a bit, but I want to just give Fida a chance, because Fida will be rattling hers off. All right, Fida, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I am. Okay. Thank you. So my dislikes. When I first saw the intro into the film, I felt I liked it, as I thought it was going to go straight to the crux of the movie, i.e. how he got his powers, but it wasn't so. So I would have preferred the film to have started normally, because the first flashback felt so long, and I felt that as this was a flashback, I'm impatient for the film to actually show where it's going, since it seems like the storyline is about how he gets this power and how he uses the power. But as I said in my likes, the structure of having the bird in the beginning, middle, and end gave continuity. Plus, the film structure made me like half ignore the long flashback in the beginning, but I didn't like that. The second thing was the skeletons in that particular scene. Oh my God, they look so new and white and shiny. And if we're telling a story about, how people usually come to this forest to die, you're expecting to see like aged and old skeletons on the ground. So I felt like that could have been a bit more realistic. Then the next one, the last one, but this is more of I dislike that this happened. Seeing Arolake find herself back to the beginning, being bullied by her husband's other wives, it broke my bloody heart, because I'm like, we're witnessing you relieve this cycle. It was so hard to watch, because like obviously it shows how life can be. Sometimes we find ourselves repeating the same cycles, and it can take a while to realize. And after all Arolake had done, Saru now slapped her. I feel like my blood was so hot in that scene. And in that moment, I thought to myself, she gave you life. And I'm so glad she took it back. But I wish it was after he slapped her. And now after hearing Saru intended to marry the princess. I know that maybe we won't have a story without that. But I felt like that was my breaking point. Thank you.
Thanks, Fida. All right, just going to read something, and then we go to you, Elizabeth. You can follow the conversation using the hashtag Nollywood Film Club. Don't forget, you can also review this on Nolly Data. It's up there. Just one of the pin tweets. All right, so Adayo said I was really like expecting more from Arolake. I wanted to see her be a witch because she dropped a lot of hints in the first half that she could be one. Honestly, during people who watch this with me know that was part of also a thing. I thought she was going to be a witch as well, but I understand if that's not the direction they wanted to go in. But yes, it just all right. So Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll try not to make this a lesson into history. So first, this movie, as it was said in the prologue, it is based on an Odu, Ifa, which is Ifa's wisdom. It's usually like poetry, where it tells a story and then you learn the lesson at the end. The lesson for this is hubris. But while it is hubris, personally for me, I feel like this movie is about two ill-fated people who got the same fate twice, even after they cheated death. For this is just very brutal for Saru's characterization. This movie opened with the bird asking Saru how he died. So we are getting how Saru died, not how the story had been told. And there is a deliberate action here because again, we're perfunctioned again with the bird the second time after they had cheated death. Saru had told us the reason how he died. This is how he died. And here in how he died, we're saying that this is a man who things happen to, he never had to take it. We're seeing this innocent person. Like Vanessa said, there are hints all over the places. I don't know how over the place, rather. I don't know how it wasn't obvious in a lot of Saru's action and in action and in the things that he chose to do about who he was. But I think the intention here is to make us not really see who this Saru is until the second part, and then you start to piece it together, especially with things that were said in the first half, in things that were said in relation to how he was a slave, in things that were said in how he didn't care if he was sleeping with an older woman or whatever. Look at when they brought food for everybody. They gave him the biggest plate. He did not even flinch. He didn't hide. He didn't act as if, oh, why am I being given special treatment? He took it and he went away. He didn't care that every other person got smaller meals. He didn't care that they were staring at him, that he was getting a bigger tree. He didn't mind. This is who Saru is. And it's in the subtle things which I think is the strength of this storytelling. It wasn't like a giant thing where you have to say it's from the second part that you say. And I think, let me just mention this part about Arolake's zone. And the question is how. Okay, before that, what Sarah and Arolake had was not love. I'll explain. I too thought this would be a love story because I was actually rooting for it. And I was wondering why they were not setting this love story up. Like, why is it rushed? Why are we not feeling in love? Even when she raised that let's run away, it was where he was just telling her, oh, you're the finest thing I set my eyes upon in Oyo. This man is having a rendezvous with the king's wife. This man that was sent to the palace to go sell his Ashoki, Abi Ashofi, and then he's having a rendezvous. He's not even telling her how much he loves her. No, they were not talking about love. They didn't care. For her, it was like an escape. She talks. You can see that she's unhappy. She hated that place. She doesn't have a child, or rather, she cannot have children. She's been there since she was 15. This is a prison that was not of her own making, and she wanted out. She tells Omowumi, the princess, that she's a moon lover. That's why she likes to sneak up at night. Now they've even told us she sneaks out every night. We don't even know where she goes to. This is a secret that they've not told us. But this is also this is somebody who has her own secrets. Who we see how. I think Vanessa mentioned this. She's stupid enough to drink poison in that palace, even knowing what she has been through over and over. And then she still went ahead with drinking. And this is somebody who paid the other queen back by stealing her own knights from this woman. So this is who Arolake is. Now, when Saru met that fate where he was killed and sent out, of course, she can't go back. This is somebody who was king's wife who has already cheated on the king. She probably felt responsible for him. There are little hints here. Even after now, at this point, we are still looking at it through Saru's eyes. This is Saru explaining how he died. And if by the time we get to the Akalaberg saying you deserve your death, even me, I was wondering why did he deserve that death? But at that point, I'm like, yeah, this guy has a rolling penis, because that was the only thing that came to my head, like, why would the bird thing? Because it just seemed unfair, because this guy is just something things that is happening to. But it's also very indicative that this bird was the one asking, and he was the one narrating or telling the bird how he died. And then by the time we got to the second half, we see Saro for who he is. And again, when it started, we're still seeing him following the leader. Let's use that word with Arolake. He's still asking for things. This is way before he got power, and we do know that power does corrupt. He didn't know, even the first time he raised the dead, it was still going back saying that, hey, so we need to find job. How are we going to survive? But here, the master, the brain behind the entire thing, Arolake, who I also think is indicative that she's also Aníkúlápó. It's not just Saru. I don't think just by raising the dead is the reason why he's Aníkúlápó. I think this is an entire metaphor on the film that played out with him, with her cheating death for him, and then taking his life back because she's the one with the death in her she's death cheater. Now, about her rolling over and taking things, they gave us that flashback where the queen has first told her that is what she's good for. She's never going to have children. Her own is to just be used for pleasure, and she's just going to be unhappy. First, in the first half, her first fate that she cheated, where she was in a prison of somebody else's own making. In the second half, she's now in a prison of her own making. That is even worse, because now it means that the fate she escaped the first time, she got it the second time. Same with Saro. Saro's fate was to be killed chased out of a town and then killed. He got it a second time. Both of them they shared this fate, which means that no matter what they run, no matter how they run from what their fate is, or no matter how they take it into their hands, they're still going to go, okay, now that's for Rebecca. Now, what I do not like, there were so many things I didn't like, maybe not so many. First, let me talk about the sound. There were times that the sound was just going out like not echoing, but it was like the mic was far away. There were a couple of times that showed up. Kunle is still, I mean, if they ask me what you expect from Kunle's movie, I'll say amazing production design and terrible wigs. But here we've exchanged wigs for beard. What else? And some of the makeup a bit iffy. Like I think the makeup on Shola Ali's face especially was taking me out. I don't know. I think the shade of that powder was a bit light, or maybe that's me. Another thing I didn't like, some plot devices used at the end, like Vanessa mentioned, maybe an incremental, but maybe that's also not the intention of the story. But without that, I think what I didn't like was the third act, especially, and how he was going to die. I know they are pressed for time, but the choice of what to go with, the storytelling of how he was raised dead. I think wasting so much time on that, and then the flashback with the king. Now, what's our business with the prince? We did not even know him. We cannot empathize with him. We can't even empathize with the king. I know that I think that's what he was trying to go for, because there is a death and you're trying to draw out the emotions. But I think it will have made more sense if we see Saru get the same fate that he got the first time. Yes, beat him again. Beat him some more. Beat him a lot. Throw him out of town. I think that it will be more significant in the way he has cheated death, because this story is about escaping your fate and meeting it again. But in Saro's point, it was hubris. And I'm trying to also not talk about the sex fact again, because we are seeing the first two through Saro's eyes. But it's also the fact that Saru was a willing participant. When our own got to him and she laid, he moved his hand and wrapped it around her. I wasn't like, this guy is not protesting. Second time, and even though they set up that old meet cute, it really didn't make sense. But you can see the violence in how it took Arake's servants. You can see the violence and see the difference, even though it's both the three. I mean, you can categorize them around the three they are rape. I mean, you can categorize the first two, but you can see if you juxtapose the one that he meted out of somebody else, and that's how it feels like. Who is this person? But we're looking at it through Saro's eyes. Saro who nothing happened to, everything happening to him was happenstance. It was just him walking through life and things not happening to him. But we see that where where it really matters, Saro knows how to make things happen. Like when he was converting the king's daughter, he knows what he wants. When he started getting rich, hitting Arolake, even after in the whatever, when he was telling Arolake that he will never desert her. But anyways, overall, I don't think that this movie is bad, but I really wish that ending was something else. I didn't mind. I didn't understand. Why is the bird asking him again how he died? But maybe it's normal. But at the same time, I just really hope that it was something else. Anyways, thank you. Bye.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. All right, so a couple of points have been raised. I instead of going back and forth, let's hear what Tumi has to say. Tumi, what do you have to say? Tumi, are you there? All right, let's move to Damola if you're there.
Sorry, did you say it's my turn?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. So things I didn't like about this film, I feel a bit nitpicky even just like mentioning them, because they were little things, but again, sometimes they affected quite significantly. So one of the things I didn't like was, so even though there were a lot of great subtle performances and cues, but there were a few that stood out because they were so loud. And at those points, if it was very jarring and just kind of took me out. A good example is, after Saru has obviously moved to this new town and everything, and he has a new setup, and he's got servant girl living with him, and comes home and he's looking at her behind and everything. There was this thing that Kunle kind of did. He gripped his genitals and he kept looking and so on. I get it, but it kind of took me out. It just felt like it just felt like a lot after all the lovely subtlety that we had seen. I felt like that was going to be a constant. So it is nitpicky, I guess, but it took me out a little bit. There were some bits where, even though I loved the lighting, again, for the most part, there were some bits where the moonlight felt really bright. It did feel like somebody was literally, shining a torch through the window or through the trees or something, and that just felt like a lot. And then so structurally, I really like the simplicity of the story in terms of it being a fable and everything, but it was very long, and it felt like I was watching two different movies. So the first half of it, I really just kind of got through that so quickly. It was just great. And in the second half, it really felt like it was dragging quite a bit, and it just felt like a completely different story was being told. Now, the thing is, even though I didn't like it, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because conceptually I still understand, I think, what the intention was, and as a concept, I think it worked. It just, for me, it jarred me a bit and took me out. This last one is more like a preference thing, and I think it's even just from a technical standpoint. So there was a bit that took me out as well, where like the King's Messenger came to summon Arrow, and the Hunter and the King's Messenger greeted each other using their titles. Now I know culturally that is accurate. In a lot of cultures, and especially in Yoruba culture, people are addressed by their titles and not by their names. But because even though I'm a Yoruba person, I'm not fluent in Yoruba, so a lot of the time I use subtitles for bits that I don't fully understand and everything. And so seeing the subtitles where literally two men greet each other, one by saying headhunter and the other one acknowledging by saying the King's Messenger, again, I felt that was jarring for me. It took me a little bit out of the story, because it didn't feel authentic. It felt more like, I just kind of expected that they would address each other and acknowledge each other's titles, but not necessarily just by. It almost felt like a military thing, like a captain coming in and saying captain, and the other one going colonel, and maybe that was also intentional, but it took me out a little bit, and I think it was more because of the subtitles than anything. Because I think when you're just listening to it, as a fluent Yoruba speaker, I think it does kind of work. I actually think that a good way to kind of tackle this would have been to not translate them into English and just have the titles written, their titles, in Yoruba written into the subtitles, and let viewers just kind of figure it out, But yeah, those are the things that I think I didn't. I will say this about because I know we talked a little bit about the story, and I heard one or two comments about how like um I think people didn't really get like Saro's character, like was he naive, was he smart, was he stupid, was he just having things happen to him? I think, and again, I know we're in the don't like things, but I feel like I need to say this because it's something I think I did like the progression of the character was almost flawless. He started off, even if he was whether he from the beginning he was opportunistic or whatever, or greedy, or whether he was naive, but there was definitely a progression in terms of the events happening to him, because he started off looking like he was just opportunistic and just like, well, if the enjoyment comes, I will enjoy it and everything. But definitely, as as events took place and everything, every time things were getting good for him, he definitely began to show like he was entitled. Even from the very get-go, when obviously Kunle Afolayan's character comes into town and he sees that person as competition, he feels entitled to his passionate nights with Shola Shobowale's character, and that's why he goes and that's why he confronts her when she comes to see him and stuff. And so I just feel like as the story went on, even up to the point of him obviously raping his servant girl and everything, that was just, and just to end it all, it's just like that worked well structurally, because at the end when we see him kind of rise up again, I don't know, I mean, I know they've obviously plugged that hole in the story, but in my mind I began to ask, like, how many times has he actually been raised from the dead? How many times has that gourd been stolen? I don't know. I know it doesn't necessarily make sense, because I guess the bird would recognize him on like if it was like the fifth time. But it did raise that question in my head. Like, how many times has he done this? How many chances has he had and everything? And is he just going to keep doing this? Because I think that's also a big theme that was running through the film. Like, that people keep on making the same mistakes that put them in the positions that they were, because we could see that with his character as well. But those were the things that I didn't like. Mostly nitpicky stuff, but some things quite glaring as well. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Gamma. I guess just before I had any pushback, is like when I said I don't like Cyrus, I don't. The progression of things that happen to him certainly escalate, but it's not him, right? For me, it's not his. It doesn't reflect in anything. So if increasingly bad things happen to me, it doesn't tell you much about, and I'm just like accepting it. It doesn't tell you much about my character. And to go from that guy who we met that came into the village to a guy who becomes abusive, violent, and rapes somebody, yeah, I'm not. That's the problem. Like that, I feel like that's a special kind of bad person, or at least something that requires a layer up. And that's what I'm saying we did not get. Like, but like what you said, I think is just, yeah, increasingly the things that happened to him that were bad increased in scale and proportion, yes, but like he had nothing to do with that. That's not character development for me. It's not progression. It didn't tell me anything new about. I didn't learn anything by the way he handled a bunch of those things. So yes, that'd be my pushback to the story. Anyway, Cynthia, you wanted to say something?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. This movie was coherent. Continuity was there. I didn't feel like I was watching a 2 hours plus movie. Probably the best Yoruba epic movie I've seen this year. Maybe even the best Netflix original. But unfortunately, I mean, there have to be some dislikes, and a lot of them are personal dislikes. So to reiterate what Mr. and Mrs. C have been saying, my first personal dislike will have to be the sexual assault. Now, the first ambush in the forest, or I don't even know, moonlight. Before this scene, we had the scene with the slow mo that I really like, where Sarah's character was the one gazing at Araloke, We also see him drinking something, and he was thinking about Areluke. So everything was really from Saru's side. And the next thing we're seeing is Areluke jumping in a bush, pulling him to the floor, and boom, the Raven says, I did not understand where we went from Saru admiring her to her pushing him to the floor. I just felt uncomfortable and it didn't sit well with me. And the second one would be the rape scene with Saru and his wife. And as Mr. C have said, there was I didn't expect it to happen. And that was because I probably did not see why it should happen from what I've been watching for the past 1 hour plus. And boom, is now ripping his mate. I don't know. It didn't also sit well with me. Then another thing during the watch party that also took me off or when I was watching with my friends was when they were in the evil forest, okay, during their journey, and this guy grew hair in his tribal mark place. I was like, man, we have been celebrating no bad week. How is Saro having hair in his tribal mark spots? Like that was like it's not a big dislike, but it was quite funny. Then, like Faida have said, the beginning of this movie, I also felt I was not going to like it, and that was because of the opening scene, the animation, and everything. I felt it was very, very shiny. Uh-uh. Like when I saw the skeleton, I laughed because I felt like it was made from pig milk, like you mold pig milk and you do a skeleton. I felt like I could just go and cut the bone and eat, and it would be very mickey. That animation was very, very shiny. Then another dislike that might be a personal dislike was the nudity, and I will explain. Now, do I have a problem with nude in a movie? No, I do not have a problem with nude in a movie. Okay, so if I'm watching a movie and they have going to be sex scene and everything starts with nude every time they're going to have sex, I know that this is what I am watching for. No, I know that this is what I would expect for every session. Now, this movie started very conservative. We had four sessions, okay? We had this thing, what's her name? Aruran and Saro's character. They hugged. We knew they were having sex. We have no, how am I forgetting their name? Araluke and the King. Okay, we had Sarotu and Aruran. We had Aruran and Kunle and Afolayan's character. So we are seeing first setting, no nudity. Everything was hug, and we knew they were having sex. Okay, so this movie came in. We are conservative, and then we saw a sexual assault thing. Bimbo jumping in, following him to the bush and everything. And the next thing we're seeing is nudity. So when I was watching the movie, I was like, I don't know. They are not comfortable yet. They are not vulnerable yet. What exactly is going on? I felt okay, maybe they were showing us the nude because she was going to get pregnant in the movie. Maybe she has cured her barren and they just had to put some intensity. But really, seducing him doesn't make sense because they have had sex, which was sexual assault. So I just felt like a movie that started very conservative and there was just nude without revealing it, and probably where they were more vulnerable and comfortable with themselves were just was just a bit uncomfortable for me. As I said, I do not have a problem with nude. Okay, if they had started with woo, we are going like this, and they continue throughout, I would have bought it. And if they have brought it in a scene where they are not comfortable with each other, so I know that I'm not just eating the ice in the cake, I'm eating everything in the cake plus the icing. So they are not vulnerable, they're comfortable with each other, and boom. I can see the weak chemistry, I can see the need for the old sexual tension, and they bring it up. I won't have a problem with it. So it's just how it was revealed and how the movie started, or how the movie was already handling sex. Okay. Then another dislike is the Akala bed. So yeah, my problem was not even with recognition, whether the Akala bed could not recognize him. I just felt the Akala bed was very, very powerless. Very, very, very powerless. Now, I understand that this bird came in its physical form and she chased him away with the stick and he dropped the god and she picked the god. Yeah, at some point I was like, eh? So he cannot come back in the spiritual form and like do justice. I mean, this guy has been doing so many things and I don't know. But anyways, she took the god which has the ashes or sand of life and the god that the birds used to raise him from the dead so I can narrate what caused his death. And then throughout this movie we're seeing him with this god and he touches the head of these people and he tells them arise and they arise. And I was like, okay, so why is this god powerful? Then later at the end of this movie we found out that it was the sand of ashes or whatever was there. That when Abaluke character removed the stuff from the god, and that was what was making this god powerful. Okay. And I was wondering because throughout the resurrection, my guy was just touching them with the god. It was not like the sand was reducing or anything, but well, maybe the sand being there was the most important thing. Anyway, okay, let's say that is the issue. Anyway, the third time we see this bed, the bed comes and the bed woke him up from the dead to narrate what happened. And I'm like, but you don't have the god. They have removed the sand. What exactly is going on here? So my problem was not with just the Akala bed not recognizing it, was also with me understanding what was so powerful about the god and why the bed was also powerless and how the bed could also come back to raise him up from the dead, asking him questions since they have thrown away the power. And even if maybe the god, maybe this bed also have power, why was it not used? Okay, so yeah, so I had issues with the Akala bed. Then just also personal dislike. I also kind of found it odd that we never heard from the Oyo Kingdom again, especially because Araluke was the king's favorite, and everything just happened, and no one was looking for her or anything. Like, okay, yes, that would have made the story about her, and they wanted it to be about Saru and Aníkúlápó, but I mean, just personal, like, why are we not hearing anything? She's not that important, but she was the favorite wife, wife among the wives. What's going on? Then also, finally, I don't think Araluke got her justice. Okay, so like everyone have said, how she aged. I don't know. I'm not buying of life, sacrificing life, and being the one to suffer it. I didn't understand how she aged. I felt like her settling down, like some people have raised, was just too not convincing, given that this woman was fighting with queens. So why is she settling down for Sarah? In fact, people wanted the death to be like slow and steady. Me, when the guy was already misbehaving, I felt like she could have just taken a knife and killed him. Just end this man, okay? Just end this man. I also feel like yes, even if there were going to be a slow death, I wanted it to come from Araluke herself to show the pain she has been through, not because she threw away the sand of a god and the sand that was in this god and oh God, sorry. And everything and they cut him and everything happened. And of which when they cut him, we also did not see a painful death. So I don't know, man. I felt like Aronoke did not get her justice and making her settle down and bear everything was just not convincing, especially because of the character they introduced us to. And yeah, so that's all.
All right, thanks, Cynthia. I would say one of my issues with that God thing is I don't, except if I missed it, they don't really tell us that, the ashes or the sand or whatever is inside nobody says anything about that. it just happens, and we're like, oh, okay, I guess. But like, it's not just that nobody says anything about it. It's that also, how did Bimbo know to do that? And like, I don't know what, like, maybe just steal the gourd in Mazel, or I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess like for maybe it buys her time if she can put it back and whatever. But I don't even know how that timeline was done really. And the time where he wasn't having it and when she replaced it. But the main issue there is I don't know how she knew it. That information didn't seem like that was passed to us. It just happens, and we're like, oh, okay, I guess. And before I give it to best African actor, because I think he said he liked the color. I did not. I'm not a big fan of Kunle's color grading. I know that seems to be my personal problem for the most part. But like, it makes a lot of. We just look too orange with this thing. Black skin always tends to look orange, and especially in this scene, in this environment where you have so much clay in the background, it's like people are not popping and they're just almost camouflaging with the background for the most part. And then also, I don't know particularly why a lot of people were wearing blue in this. I was looking for a link or something, a reason why a lot of people, like maybe it's rich people or maybe just poor people, but like everybody was wearing blue and there was just a lot of it. And I was thinking, why is there so many people wearing blue? I'm not sure what the reason that was, to be honest. I know like there's a lot of tie and dye stuff, but like the people who wore other clothes, and I saw that on my second watch. At first I was thinking, oh, maybe everybody's wearing blue, but on my second watch, I noticed a couple of things. Number one, it's what happens when you make the blue more pronounced and you dull most of the other colors except orange. But I couldn't. It didn't make sense to me why. Like, I feel like in this setting, like at least maybe rich people or some set of people would want to differentiate themselves from at least commoners who just, I don't know. But the blue seemed like such a prominent thing, and it didn't seem like there was a reason why, except for like it looks cool in color grading or whatever. All right. That's my listening. So, best African actor, if you want to respond to that, if you want to talk about something else.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, we can.
Okay, so I'll just go straight into it. I have a couple of things to say, not much though. But I'll start by saying that I knew that when I saw Aníkúlápó's trailer and I saw they said, okay, the one that has death in his pouch, the English translation, I knew that it's going to cause some problems, especially for people that probably don't really understand Yoruba as it were. She understands. So, but I'll just say that Aníkúlápó is not meant to, the name Aníkúlápó is not meant to be interpreted just literally like that. And I think that's a mistake they made by giving it that subtitle that either has death in his pouch. I grew up in a very, very Yoruba background, and I knew that Aníkúlápó, what it really means, or the safest meaning for Aníkúlápó is one that kind of has a leverage over death, or one that has a kind of power over death. And that could translate into maybe someone that can make people die, or someone that can raise people up from the dead. You understand? So Aníkúlápó necessarily does not mean that one that keeps death in his part, something like that, because I discovered that some people were kind of expecting a storyline whereby someone will be making people die. You understand? I think I just need to kind of correct that from my little understanding of Yoruba and the word Aníkúlápó. And then I would say that the main thing that I did not like about, and I think it was a mistake, and it was a very terrible mistake, and that's Rolake's aging. It was too bad, like it was too obvious, because I kind of sat down and calculated the amount of years they spent in the new town or village. I discovered that it should not be more than 10 years or thereabout, because the first child that he had with the maid, Omowo, the boy was around 7 years or so. and then maybe they spend, let's just say maybe they spend 3 years before you give birth to that one. So what they spent in that new town was no more than 10 years. And then what was it called? Rolake was looking 55 or 50, or let me even say 60 at worst. And then Saru is still looking 40. Like it was too the age difference was too much. The way she aged was too bad. And also, yeah, from what other people said, I think I noted some things that I had someone saying that they could not tell that Saro could do that kind of thing because he looked too innocent and did not put some point. I think if you really pay attention to some details, you could discover that maybe Saro actually had the tendency to do some things that you probably do not expect. Okay, for example, now, say when he slept with Awarun, or let me say when Awarun came to sleep with him, that's Shola Shubowale. Like, I mean, a woman of this age is moving to you for the first time, and there was almost no like there was almost no him saying no. It was too easy. You understand? Like, I mean, also when he slept with Rolake is supposed to be the king's wife. Like, and he slept with her easily. He didn't even try to say no or anything. Like, by doing that, you could tell that, okay, I think this guy is capable of more things than we are going to give him credit for. They gave him food, like something that is quite much more than what others had, and the guy ate it freely right in front of them. He was not even scared of anything. Or was it when he was fight? And yeah, one of the biggest pointers for you to know that this guy is capable of many things that he fought with Awarun, like when he met someone that made you, like, I mean, the woman that made you, that give you all you have now, and then he went to her house and saw someone there, and then he kind of gave her this cool treatment that he really made her know that it was not cool. I mean, by seeing all those little things, you can tell that, okay, I think this guy just looks innocent, but he's not really as innocent as we are thinking he is. So I think there were enough pointers for you to know that, okay, this guy is capable of doing some things that he did at the end. And also, I noted here that, okay, yeah, I have a question. Like, I don't know why people are having issue with the nudity, and I think this has been a very, very big point of concern for me since the film came out. And I saw a lot of people talking on Twitter and all that. And like, people are talking about nudity. I'm like, okay, what nudity are you guys talking about? Like, what? I don't know. We watch. Someone even said, like, tonight. Someone said, okay, yeah, maybe because the kind of storyline they were expecting, they were not expecting that there was going to be something like this. I mean, come on, we watch films, especially films from abroad and all that. We watch films, and then you don't necessarily have to see that something like this is going to happen here, and then it just happened maybe once or twice, and it wasn't really that obvious like that. Or even if it was obvious, I mean, there is no Igbo people alone, let me put it that way. Like, it's not only Igbo people alone that did these things now. Like, even we in Africa too, a lot of things like that happen. But the fact that we have not been, I think the problem is that the fact that we have not been seeing a lot of films where we show our I don't know how to put this now. I'm looking for a silver to use now. I think we have not been portraying ourselves like that as sexual people too. So we have been very conservative about our sexual exploits. That is why people are getting very comfortable with seeing something like this in this kind of film. But the truth is that I see no problem. I don't know why people are having issues with that nudity part. Like, it's compared to the volume of nudity scenes that we consume in other films that are not in Nigeria, from Nigeria or from Africa. But I've seen a lot of people complain about that nudity was unnecessary. What is unnecessary? Like, it's not like as though and then there are some parts whereby I know we are very conservative people as Africans and all that, but then it still does not mean that these guys are indoors. It's not like as though they were outside and all that. So I think, and yeah, finally, I think I'll just say that before I leave, I'll just say that someone said that Olake, like she was getting she got naked. She was I think she took off her top and all that for the guy. I mean, and they said that, okay, why is the need for that? They have been having sex before and all that. I feel like I don't even think we need to talk about that, because if you having sex with someone, the same person, over a period of time or for a couple of times, does not mean that sometimes you won't want to spice things up and they just do something very naughty. So I think that is just the simple explanation I can give to that scene. Like, okay, yeah, they've been having sex before and all that, but then people do it a lot. That, okay, they just spice things up and then she just do something naughty. In fact, in our contemporary, in our recent films, like, I mean, film dated to the current age and time, we see things like, okay, maybe a husband comes back home from work, or even someone you are sleeping with that you're not married to, and then probably they just take off maybe a pound or something and just throw it at your face, meet me in the room. You get that kind of thing. So I don't know why people are having issue with the okay, nudity this, nudity that has been everywhere. I see no reason with that, please. I think, I think that's all I have to say now about that.
The best African act. I would say that Cynthia's problem, and I didn't mind the nudity, but I understand completely where she's coming from. Is that like if you're watching a PG movie or if you're watching a children's film, you don't expect to see nudity. And I'm not saying that this is a a PG film, but the way they had portrayed other versions of the sex, the nudity seemed out of nowhere, and it didn't have a meaning. It didn't feel like there was a reason for this. He had sex, I think, 3 times. We had seen this before that, and even once with Bimbo's character. So it's like, why the nudity at this point? That's the point I think Cynthia or people who have problems with the nudity is like, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, if it's you can have nudity as a stylistic choice, like where I guess it doesn't have to mean everything, but then you shouldn't cover everybody else up, right? You would just have it displayed. But yes, it just seemed like it was saved for just that part, and it just looks a little bit more like shock value or gratuitous, rather than stylistic or intentional or purposeful. That's what I would say for that. All right, Adekune has the hand up.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I think that one of the things I like about the movie was the photography, actually. You know, the handling of the views of. I think I feel that was quite well done. And then I had not been a fan. Well, I've not watched so many of her movies of Bimbo Ademoye before now, but I think she did quite well in expressing or bringing that character to life. That said, I have a few issues with the movie. The first is, I don't know what period of the Oyo Empire that was set in, but that town or the village just looked too sparsely populated for what it was supposed to be. But I understand that maybe, budget issues and things like that, but I would have loved to see more supposed buildings around. It just looked very tiny, like very, very, it was quite sparse. That's one. Secondly, the love affair of Arolake and Saru felt rushed to me. It was just like, okay, she saw him one time and then she went to camp him in the woods. That was it. I would have loved to see maybe the first time he came to town, he noticed her or she noticed him. And then, it could have built up a little bit. I felt maybe there was a hurry about developing that, And I know some speakers before had also said the character of the lady that's Arolake was not so. It seemed that there were some contradictions. She was savvy in some sense, and she was naive in other senses. It was just weird for me. And then when they got the god and that she knew what to do. It was, I don't know, that place wasn't so smooth. And again, I think it was, I'm trying to read the name, O'Brien's, sorry for mispronouncing the name, Vanessa Oha, who mentioned, I think we should have seen some repercussion for handling that. You're bearing a spiritual weight, so to speak, and there just seems not to be any effect. Guy was raising people to life. He was the god was in his possession, and there just seemed to be no effect on them. You have something so powerful and it's just there like an ordinary object, which is again why I even questioned how did Rolake know to empty the powder in it at the end, to remove the power that was there. That didn't build up quite well. I think the sound was a good attempt. I hope it gets, but that's the soundtrack generally. I think it was quite good, but it was. I think we should also try and develop in that area in the Nigerian movie industry to be a little bit more emotive. I recall the period where Rolake had saved him from death the first time, and they were in the forest. I think the sound was quite decent there. However, that period too, I think what I read was a few weeks later, where it looked like they had not eaten throughout that period, and I'm not sure how long a person can survive without food, just wandering in the forest. So that was a bit faulty for me. And then finally, when he died and the bird, that final scene, I felt it was. I feel one of the issues we may have within the industry is that we like to combine many ideas. Like because I was asking myself, does this look like a sequel I would like to watch? Just let the guy die, But he still came back to life, and it wasn't just that. But as I said, I like that. So one of the things I try to look out for, maybe is fault finding. When I see movies set in the past like this, electricity cables, in the background somehow, like NEPA poles or stuff like that. And I think they paid attention to avoiding those kind of things. There wasn't any serious sign of technology. I felt some of the thrones looked like really advanced woodwork. I was thinking, did we have all of this type of quality of woodwork some 300 years ago? But generally, I feel it was a good story that could have been much better implemented. However, and somebody also talked about the makeup. The makeup was not so great, especially about the tribal marks. And I don't think everybody, has to have tribal marks, especially your main characters like that. It's not necessary. It doesn't have to necessarily be so. And then finally, sorry, there's something I forgot. The subtitling was very. I'm trying to describe it properly. It's connoted the meaning, right? But I feel that sometimes putting the words or the translation in our own language, or for instance, maybe I should explain. There was a point where they said "make hay while the sun shines." That's what it means. But the word was the phrase is technical pressure or something like that. Sometimes one of the ways a culture is expressed is in the specific types of words. So here we were seeing the Western or global adaptation. Yes, we all know is make hay while the sun shines. But I felt with some of those things, we could have heard it in our own language. It's one of the things I feel people appreciated Achebe's writings for. It was almost as if you were reading in his language. Yes, you were reading English, right? But it would be like you were reading in his own language. So those are the things I feel, could have been done on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Paraventure, did you want to say something?
Yeah, hi. I do. Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, so I think I don't want to sound repetitive, but I was quite disappointed. Not with the whole film. I was so impressed with the so-called first half. I thought this is just going great. It's amazing. I love the story. The nudity did it for me, even though it didn't do it for anyone else. It felt so mature. And then we get this WTF moment in the middle, and I'm like, what is this? How could they have done this? I was so, someone used the word jarring and just glossed over it. it was so jarring. It turned what I thought was going to be a great movie into a barely good movie for me. That was how bad I thought the transition was. And it was disappointing. I was so discouraged as well. And that's, no nitpicking, nothing. That was just the spoiler for me. I don't think we can gloss over it. It was that bad. And then it almost reminded me of the furore that we had on what's it called, Collision Course, where I think people were saying, oh, so you turned an NSAS story. This was a police defense story, and used an NSAS emblem. It almost felt that way in the sense that they turned an epic movie. They used an epic movie to cover up for a men as come story. That was how it felt like. Someone just said, I want to make, paint this man very bad. And then cover it up with this nice epic color, epic themes, and then just shunted the men as come story at the end. I felt really disappointed, considering how good the first half was. So I don't want to belabor the point. It was that bad for me. The second half, that is. Anyway, that's me done.
All right, thanks, Bonaventure. Weird to say similar things between. Although I understand how you can see that side of it. I think there are aspects of the film that sort of everyone's kind of scummy in this to some degree, but sure, Kunle is especially scummy. All right, Choma. Sorry, not Choma. Before Choma, Trendiangi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. For me, quick one. I think the movie was great. And first off, it's when I think Best Africa talked about the aging. I just want to quickly say something or highlight something. I think in that part of aging, if you take a very good look at it, it's not a form of having to put white on her eyebrow. It has to do with a form of neglect. She felt very lonely. She didn't have to take care of herself, because if you go back to the first half of it, you see how she took very good care of her body, having to make her hair, having to pay so much attention, being the king's favorite. So in that part of the aging, it just shows like in a form of neglect, being so alone, not having anybody to talk to, the man that she ran off with abandoned her, and every other thing. Then for me, I think the introduction of the nudity was awesome. It gave the movie a different set of a different idea, not something that we are very used to. And I think one of the speakers was saying that he was trying to explain in the form of spicing up. I think that did a great justice for me, because if you watch most our other counterparts, you see that introduction of sex, and it just gives you this thrilling effect. It takes you to another level. I think that's the introduction for me. And I think overall, the part where he died, I had to specifically explain to my younger sister, because it was quite confusing. So if you have to denote how she fought the bed, and I'm like, how did you get the power? How did you know what to do and every other thing? I think they should have just narrow it. They should have put it in such a way. Maybe she knows more of I think that's where they said she know more of the Igala, but I felt they should have denoted more for us to carry us the journey. But in general, I think they tried. The quality picture was really good and every other thing. Maybe they should have. And for me, the timing was too long, 2 hours. Like, what are they doing? Like, it was just going round in circles and in circles. So I just felt the aging was really addressed. The nudity was really good for me. Then the picture was awesome. And just the ending parts, it looked like it was going to be a continuous thing or season film, or so things like that. And we should just end it as straight off. So, but saying men as come, I don't. When I was watching it, I didn't really look at it in that form, because for me, it meant so much. The guy was so full of himself, and he was so egoistic, is what he wants, so it's not just really men has come, because the king was really a good lover, you get me? So if you say it's just the guy, what of other people, you get me? So we can't just generalize one set. We have to look all through the movie and everything. That's my little contribution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Trinyangi. Choma, did you want to say something?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Hello, everyone. So, I really liked Aníkúlápó. I just felt that we missed a lot of consequences for certain things that happened, especially with the time the film was set. Because if you're doing it, say, in the 80s and stuff, I would like to believe that in that period, people dwelt mostly on, spiritism, mysticism, Ifa, and the likes, African powers and stuff. So I would like to believe that, they didn't have to go to court to judge cases because the gods would come and, do things. So consequences like sleeping with the king's wife, I don't think you would, beyond people beating you and leaving you for dead, shouldn't there be other consequences beyond the physical? Consequences like cheating death, like death is not man, so you cheat death and it don't, come looking for you, stuff like that. Consequences of stealing the god, and raising people from the dead, like those consequences were missing. We just kept moving, without saying the gods are coming for you, or the bed is coming for you, because now all the people who are meant to die from this kingdom, you're bringing them up to life. And then I think personally, I don't know, but it's a personal observation. I don't know why. I don't know if the bed laid the god, or if the god appeared or stuff. I don't know where it came from, and I don't know why it had to be that, as the power to raise people from the dead. And yeah, I think the last thing, which is just personal feeling, is, when Cyrus looked at the buttocks of Arolake's maid, I had to pause the film, and I'm like, I've seen this guy, have it easy with women because the women like him, so they come to him and stuff. But because a woman is positioned in a particular, way, shouldn't mean that, it calls for you to look at her in some certain way, and then sort of promote that narrative of, women bring it upon themselves based on how they're dressed, stuff like that, and at that point I'm like, I'm never a believer for that mantra of all men are scum. But at that point I'm like, are all men really scum? Because you've been having it all easy with the women. She should have held that power and used it and become famous, but she gave it to you, and here you are doing the opposite of what you should be doing to this lady. And you didn't change. It's basically what you did, like, till the very end, and then I look at it and it sort of felt like they were sort of subtly pointing fingers at the women and saying it probably might be your fault, because why leave your house and follow this man, or why not take the power, why give it to the man, stuff like that. But this last bit is just like a personal observation of how I felt like way when it started going south. But yeah, these are my thoughts.
All right. No, thank you, Choma. I'm going to read a couple of tweets that have come through. Personal Thought says, I empathize with the Kingo, a whole Aramo. Mel says, the nudity was out of place with the conservatism of the movie treats other sex scenes. Yeah, this is essentially what I said earlier. It also doesn't move the plot. If it was presented in the context of the vulnerability they later show each other, it would have added to the plot, but it wasn't, and so it didn't. Yes, it essentially it's a stylistic choice. If it's out of what it's doesn't fit with it if it's supposed to be a stylistic choice, and if it's not supposed to be a stylistic choice, then it doesn't do anything, whether move the plot or add to any particular thing. All right, that's what the people who are disagreeing with it, and I actually agree with it. It's just that it's new tea. Who cares? It was so small. Mrs. C, have you done? Do you want to do some of your thing? I think is that everybody. All right. Vanessa wants to. Vanessa, you get a chance after. Wait, let me just check if Tumi is back. Tumi, I had said.
You announced when Atari should be back.
Oh, sorry. Again, the timing of this between BB and it was a bit hectic. My bad. I'm fully back now. I just had a few things that really bugged me, but I'll start with the person I watched it with. He had an issue with a couple things. A lot of the transitions just felt kind of out of place, but especially that last scene where to him it came across as sort of comedic when it should have been serious. And the last scene where he's trying to raise the body and it's just, and then the guy who was the king's mouthpiece, his acting was great, but it's like for some reason at that point it just seemed to come across more comedic when that should have been a much more graver scene. And then we see Kunle's character with the finger in mouth, making him presenting almost like a naive, foolish boy. And it was just, that part really just didn't jive with him too much, because it's like, this is something serious. This is the end of your life right here. But it feels like I'm supposed to laugh like a skit. So that part was weird. For me, and again, a lot of people have mentioned this, the affection for Saru, was just, I think it missed, some scenes were misplaced. Like if it had started where we see, the nakedness, the nudity, if that was the very first introduction of intimacy with the Queen of Arulake and Saru, I'm like, all right, cool, I can buy it. But it's like, they clearly showed us from Saru's part that, hey, he's feeling this babe. But I don't see it from the Queen's part, like, when did you start feeling this babe? Like, in fact, that forest scene, which is really a sexual assault if we deep it, I thought Saru was dreaming, because prior to that, it's just we see him looking longingly, drinking, thinking about this gorgeous baby he just saw. I was questioning, is he dreaming? Because I'm like, okay, maybe this is just his manifestation of his desire for the queen, because he would never go for the king's wife. But the scene continues, next scene, it's like, okay, this is real. She pursued him in the forest. Why? Nothing about you said you were following, looking into the sky. That was really weird for me. If you're going to do romance, they built up the way we could see that the princess had a crush on Kunle's character. They built that so well for someone who was a minor character. They did the build up of that really, really well. So I'm very disappointed that they didn't build up the Queen and Queen Arulake and Saru. You didn't build that. You didn't give us anything to say they were into it. She was into him. At least, even if she pursued him in the forest, this is someone who's kind of been presented as meek throughout this show. All of a sudden, she's sneaking out of the palace to go pursue a guy. Like, this is bold. It doesn't rock well with how they had presented her. And then I wish we would have seen them face to face, whereby, Saro's character is not scared that, hey, who the heck is following me? And there's a clear consent between the two, like, oh, okay, it's you, this babe I'm feeling for, and this babe is clearly feeling me to be jeopardizing her life, leaving the palace for these circumstances. And there's some clear sign of consent before they go fuck in the forest. That really bothered me. So that part, and again, another sexual assault with Omar. Again, my thing is this same producer gave us Citation. I expect him not to take instances of sexual assault lightly. That's a problem because of his previous work.
you did citation, and then you're going to include these two scenes where it's just, bruh, what the fuck? I was annoyed. However you wanted to place it, that part, those two things in this movie really ruined the movie for me. And then afterwards, when Omoru, that didn't happen, she's bleeding, all right, fine. But then he presents it as, okay, we've been childless. That's bothersome. And it just doesn't make sense. You don't rape someone and it's like, oh, well, I raped her because we're having trouble conceiving. That's fucked up on so many levels. So those three things, I'm like, bruh, you know better than this. This should not be a recurring thing in your movies. Like, okay, fine. Even if you wanted to show us, okay, back then, if somebody you rape them, you have to marry them because there are better ways of showing that. But you show the sexual assault and then you try to explain it as some noble thing done. Like, come on now. That's bad. That really bugged me, and I don't like it. And one more thing, what happened to the weaving business after they moved to the new village? What happened to the bracelet? Every single time Arulake mentioned the bracelet, I thought, okay, she's going to start a small business because clearly you've shown us that women can be entrepreneurial in this society that they live in. What happened to the braiding? I thought that was going to be like a small business. Nothing happened to it. Weaving, nothing happened to it. So I'm like, why did you leave these things hanging? But if they had shown us that Saro's going to be this, ancient type person where because of the gifts that he's receiving from the visitors, he's going to be like, I don't ever have to weave again. I don't ever have to touch. I don't have to do manual labor again. That would have wrapped that up. That would have wrapped up the skills that these two people had that could have set them up, for their life. But you didn't give us none of that. So that was just really annoying. And last thing, my person is mentioning, oh yeah, he really had an issue with that forest scene. He really did. And he's the one who's actually pointing out, like, yo, that's actually sexual assault. In my head, I can kind of think, okay, you can't go for the queen, so you're running fantasies of the lady wanting you. But to him, it's like, nah, bro, that's foul. And it really is foul. Yeah, that was the point where the queen decided to cheat on the king. Yeah, that was foul, having it happen in the forest. That way, there was no clear communication from both parties. And it's like, it was just really, really foul. And I expected a lot more from Kunle Afolayan based on the work he's done and based on how far he's come. And that's it.
All right, thanks, Timmy. I don't know whether you've seen our citation review, but Kunle's past sexualist, the way
his films have handled or dealt with sexual assault and the fallout for it has it's never been handled very well.
So yeah, like again in citation, sorry to redredge the problem with citation. The problem with citation is that what's her name? Is it Temi or Temi? Whatever Temi's characters, however it goes, which is like just report to the Senate, is juxtaposed with somebody who takes
a scenario of someone who tries to expose the lecturer with their friends, which is typically how people actually get justice for that in Nigeria versus going to the Senate that's full of the friends of the lecturer who sexually harassed or assaulted you.
Yeah, I'm saying just go to the Senate is not a
reductive.
It's very reductive and it's usually not true. All right, but yes, that's kind of it's funny. Like, unfortunately, again, we didn't do our thing, but one of my predictions was like, it's a Kunle Afolayan film, probably expect a rape.
Yeah.
But he's surprised because he gave us more than one. So, Vanessa wants to say something.
It's very short, don't worry.
Okay.
I just want to say to, what's his name? Paraventure. I don't know if you have been, and this is not me being rude or whatever, I don't know if you've been listening. I feel like me and Elizabeth have said so many times about Sarah's character and the covetousness and the hubris and the duplicity for you to reduce this to a men are scum, whatever. I don't know. I just felt like that threw me off because that certainly wasn't what this film was. Nobody was inserting a men are scum into an epic film. This Oduifa is about hubris, is about pride, is about greed. So and all of that is evident in the film and in the storytelling. So to bring up collision costs and somehow tying this to a men are scum thing just feels a little reductive and unnecessary.
No, the film was reductive, but that's what Men Has Come is about, isn't it? It's about pride. It's about men.
But that's not
Even the
what this.
king.
That's not what this
Even
film was.
but that is what
That's not
it
what this
turned
film
into.
was, and I feel
And
it's a
that's the thing.
bit.
That's the thing. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with putting it in. I don't mind a film about it. You
That's
can have a
not
Men
what
Has Come
this
film.
film is, though.
But then, considering
I
what
hate
came
to
before, the
say it,
first
you're
half was
wrong,
so good.
and I'm pretty much
The
done.
first half was like amazing, and my disappointment was considering how good the first half was. To have a second half that was essentially a reduction to a social media catchphrase, I was so disappointed.
All right. Okay. Points have been made. I hear both of you. All right, Mrs. C, do you want to?
Sorry, there's no both of you, and I'm just going to have the last word. I'm not entertaining this speaking over me and interrupting me while I let you speak. Not great, but then again, in your words, men are scum.
All right.
Alright.
Mrs. C, did you want to?
Yeah. So this was a 2.5 hour movie, and I still felt so. It's weird, right? Because usually when it's long, you're like, oh, I felt every hour of that, right? It's a long movie, and I still feel like a lot of things were rushed. And I think the rushed bits, this is mostly going to be a reiteration of like things I said earlier. I think the rushed bits led to some of the problematic bits of this film. Like a number of people mentioned that it looked like the Araloke, Bimbo's character, it looks like she sexually assaulted Saru, right? And I don't think the writers meant it to be sexual assault, right? Because they have that little flashback scene of them making eyes at each other. This is supposed to be some love story. They want to run away together, and she gives him the cord of life and all that. So the writers it doesn't look like the intent was for it to be sexual assault, but too many people have taken a scene that's supposed to be romantic as sexual assault, and that was because they rushed some of the writing and didn't build up that encounter to look how it should have looked. They didn't build up that encounter to look like a midnight rendezvous of lovers, which, I thought gave problems to the scene. Also, the rushing of the whole second half of this film, where they come to this new village, there was just so much that happened that wasn't shown, right? This complete transformation of Saru from this still relatively naive, kind of stupid person, whose Bimbo's character is giving the gourd and telling what to do and all of that. This transformation from that person to this showman, right? Like by the end we see that he's perfected his act, right? He now does a whole act to it, which normal people do this, they'll add an act to it. He's doing rapes now, right? He's marrying multiple wives. Like I did say he has wandering penis syndrome from the beginning, so but he's actively going out to do all of that stuff now, and we just see it in a time jump, right? It comes almost out of nowhere, and it happens so quickly. And for a 2.5 hour film, for major plot points to be rushed, it's just, and then the ending didn't quite land as well. The ending didn't land. Fine, he had repercussions, but it was unsatisfying.
It happened off screen.
It happened off screen. Yeah, it happened off screen, and it was so unsatisfying. And especially when you've given me a character that I want dead, if you don't show me that death, it kind of sucks. And I did want him dead. I wanted Sarah dead for so much of that film. I was kind of sympathetic to him for like the first how many minutes, and then at some point I'm like, no, he deserves to die. Kill him now. But yeah, so it didn't quite stick the landing. I think we've been saying over the last few films, we've talked about we have a third act problem, and I don't think it was the whole third act that was faulty, but a lot of things were rushed, and then we struggled to stick the landing, which we seem to be having a problem with. So,
all right, okay. Let me open my notes. I think I've said most of the things that I wasn't particularly I didn't like about this. I've written here who is Sarah Loverboy. I don't need to rehash that. It's basically his character just does it. I guess the way to summarize both Sarah's character and so I keep on forgetting Bimbo's Arelake, right?
yeah.
Is that they just seem to be doing what the plot needs them to do.
Yes.
And that's not great characterization. They don't feel like characters. They feel like they're just doing what the plot needs them to do. Fair enough for the first and I'm actually I can be fine watching a film with no characters, but like the things happening have to be really interesting and all of that. And then so like I'm not expected to buy into like any of their stories or any of their like loves or their hardships if you're not gonna like write characters. And there are like Sarah's the most boring, nothing happening. Like he's not just things just happen to him, and I don't understand it. Like because like I think if you tell the story that something like the story that Kunle wanted to tell, I think, but like if he was more active, if he went after these women, right? If he showed ambition in like going from the businesswoman, maybe he should have even started with somebody who just a gossip who knows like the people who like are big, and then he goes to Shola's character who's a businesswoman, and then from there he gets into the king's palace, and then from there he's like, oh, like let's in that like, and then he gets caught, and then like whilst trying to run away with the queen, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing somebody with an ambition. I'm seeing somebody who is clearly moved by women, like grasp for women. Like I can now buy some of the things you say in that second half of the movie, where all of a sudden it seems like the ambition is there to really do a bunch of things. So there's that. I think that's my biggest issue with it is just both of their characterizations, and those are the two leads. Unfortunately, I mean they do well in their roles, but like their characters are just so. I don't believe in any of them. I don't believe in a lot of the actions that they take that move the plot forward. And I've mentioned the scene that I think is sort of the the thing that captions it all. But it's just not my favorite. All right, so we're going to move to summaries. Declan has something to say. You can say what you can have the response, and then just go ahead and do your summary after that. What you thought of it in general.
Thank you. What I actually just wanted to respond to is, I think a number of people have talked about the first half and second half. I didn't really have so much problem with the change in Sarah because I felt it could be used to depict how power corrupts, actually. So this was somebody who started out looking for work, molding clay, and then he got his own weaving industry going on. But suddenly he was getting free money. So it's within reason to say, okay, he got used to that. He got used to the glory of it, women flocking around him. So for me, that was not so much of a problem. And I actually particularly like the fact that he had turned the resurrection thing into a craft, with a lot of performance. I think it tells us maybe how some of our cultures were even conceived, or some parts of culture emerged. But all in all, I think something that seems consistent so far, and I also share, is that many times our movies want to tell a story, and there's a rush to do that. Yes, you want Arolake and Saru to get together, but you need to build it up. So for me, I would probably have even removed the Princess Omowumi part of it. If you had time constraints, and build up, glances and contacts between Arolake. And so for me, that's the major issue that I feel brought the movie down. Sometimes there is a hurry to get a point across, and it's just rushed. And that's why people would watch that forest scene and say it's assault, It's supposed I think it was supposed to be something romantic, like, okay, I'm done glancing or seeing you from a distance and stuff like that. But it just didn't happen because of that rush. So as I said, I think it was a step to the ideal that we hope movies can be, some level of progress, but definitely much more needs to be done, especially making the story work and not rushing. Thank you.
Thank you, Aníkúlápó. Appreciate that. All right, Choma, do you want to give us a brief summary of what you thought of Aníkúlápó? All right, if Choma's not there, Vanessa, do you want to give us a brief summary of?
Sure. I'm sure everybody can tell that I really liked this. It's my favorite Kunle Afolayan film in a bit. Was it without its flaws? No. But I really appreciated that the fact that the story had a beginning, middle, and end. The end was unsatisfactory. Yes, very much so. I just wanted a more gruesome death, but that's me. I'm bloodthirsty and I'm petty. But it's been a while where just basic structure, for whatever reason, in Nollywood has been ignored. And this didn't ignore basic storytelling structure. And I really appreciated that. The world building is great. I appreciated the use of, I guess, the portrayal of the Yoruba culture and both those Yoruba towns and how they were different from each other. I just felt very, like a world that was lived in. It didn't feel like a world that was pulled out of thin air. These were people who lived in these communities, and it felt lived in. It felt like, yeah, they fit in the environments that they were in. All in all, I just really enjoyed it. It had its flaws, but it's a good watch. And it has rewatchability, I guess. You can watch it multiple times. I have twice, and I plan to watch it again, but that's a personal thing because I like it.
All right, thanks, Vanessa. I just feel like I thought it was funny that you said I like this. It had a beginning, middle, and end. Was the end satisfactory? No, I love it. It's like, how low is our bar? Our bar is in the mud. But no, I think I get it.
God.
It had a beginning, middle, end, and
It's
I
not
didn't
my
quite
fault.
like the end. But I love it.
Said the
All right. True. All right. Paraventure, do you want to give us a brief summary of what you thought of the movie in general as a whole?
Right. Let me apologize first. I'm watching American football, so I just butted in to go back to watching. I didn't mean to talk over you. Apologies. Now the film. Storytelling structure. I'm not one for, things like you have to follow some kind of structure. I like things a bit, surprising or even absurdist. But this just jarred. I can't get over it. It had a beginning, and the middle and the end just didn't tally with the beginning. And like I said, the beginning was so good. The first 1 hour is some of the best filmmaking I've seen come out of Nollywood. Mokalik is probably my favorite film of his. And the first hour probably beats it hands down. And then the second hour, it's a second totally different film. So you've got two different films and you don't have any link between them, as far as I'm concerned. maybe not Menace Call, maybe they wanted to make an epic film. They didn't have the budget to finish what they started, and they just decided to go down a route that they could manage. Perhaps that tells the story. But anyway, it's disappointing. Ultimately, I'm disappointed. Considering how it started, to finish that way is a bit unfortunate. And I won't be watching again. Cheers.
All right. Thank you, Paraventure. Cynthia, do you want to give us a brief summary of what you thought of Aníkúlápó?
Oh yeah, so like I said, I really enjoyed this movie. I felt like for a long time we watched a movie where the production cared about the viewers. Okay, so it was very enjoyable. We had good writing, good directing, good producing, and good acting. Um, did I dislike some parts of the movie? Yes. And during my dislike, I said some of them were personal, and maybe some people wouldn't mind. Will I recommend this movie? Of course. Okay, so this is one of the movies that I rewatched a second time, and I wasn't angry that I'm rewatching this thing because of Film Club. I enjoyed my rewatch, so definitely going to recommend the movie. Is it just me? Everybody's quiet.
I'm on mute. Sorry. Okay. I said great things. Obina, do you want to give us a brief?
Oh yeah. Hi everyone. It's been a minute. Let me start by saying that I think that if you look at where we're coming from as regards, movie production and giant strides we've had, especially in modern Nigerian cinema, you would attest to the fact that this was sort of a triumph from the standpoint of just paying attention to details. You see a project where they created a universe essentially from scratch, and you believed it. It was real. You essentially. I think one thing that buoyed me the most was the artistry, the attention to minuscule details. That every frame felt like there was effort put into it. For me, I put out a thread about this project, and I think that the film really triumphs in its art direction and production design. For me, those are the stars of the film. It's a body of work. It is art. It will never be 100%. What I would say is we shouldn't have an oversimplification of trying to understand and put it in a box. If you look at the time they're trying to depict, the world wasn't a great place. A lot of what we consider as the norm in terms of how women are treated and all that stuff. And I understand it was difficult for a lot of people to watch, but it was a completely different time. Interpretation is subject to artistry and mastery, depending on who is handling that project. And I feel that looking at it from looking at it with a bird's eye view, pulling out, it speaks well of the efforts that are being made to actually grow in leaps and bounds from a direction standpoint, production design standpoint, and even acting, characterization. I think that things around because I completely agree, the film didn't particularly end strong. I had a problem with how the film actually goes fades to black. It just felt too, from all that, from how it started, but that being said, I had a good time watching the film. I was discussing the film with a neighbor of mine, and she didn't even know when 2 hours went by, and that is an indication that the film was engaging, which is good. So I liked the film. I liked it. I liked what I saw. I liked, the characters. I liked the performance. And again, I liked everything around the artistry and the music, and the production design. It could always be better, just like any body in body of work or work of art. So for me, it signifies that a lot more, great more projects are going to come out, and it's a good way to sort of end the year, because I don't know how many more projects. I think Election and a bunch of other ones. I think Gangs of Lagos, in terms of large projects, but it's a sign for good things to come, and that's what I'm really happy about. So yeah, that's my contribution. I think it was a good film. I think it was I enjoyed myself watching it, and definitely would recommend it. Spoken well about it, and continue to do. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think it's just Elizabeth left, right? Has everybody had their summaries aside Elizabeth? All right. Okay, Elizabeth, go on.
Okay, so as everybody has said, this movie is a triumph for the Nigerian cinema, and honestly, a triumph for me and the film club, because honestly, we have suffered this year. Because I really like movies that elevate the discourse, honestly, because here we're discussing colors, characterization, storytelling, because this should be the idea. We shouldn't really be picking apart the mundane things. And for that, I'm actually very grateful. Aníkúlápó for me is also one movie that allows me interpret it as it comes to me. Again, this is just like how you would Macbeth or something. So this I like in the characterization for me. I feel like this movie is one that touches on a lot of themes, even though the central theme is hubris. I feel like it touches on fate and not escaping it. It also touches on duplicity. Personally, I'm I'm thinking that that whole first half was us seeing um Saro's life through Saro's own version, because he explains how he just became a violent person in the second half, where at this point he's not telling a story. This is a new story afresh. I know that someone had mentioned that it wasn't necessary. I think that was actually very necessary in seeing the duplicity of Saro, because in the first half you're there just looking at this man that happenstance, everything is mere happenstance. But here it is that him just being that violent person, greedy, and just wants power. I'm actually very disappointed also in the way he ended. I think somebody mentioned that the comedy pack. I saw that. I was wondering why the choice of the flashback with the prince, and why they couldn't show us Sarah suffering the exact same fate he suffered the first time. I thought that would have been a very strong ending for this movie. But overall, I think this is Kunle has overdone himself, because he's not had a very good outing since 2019. So I don't know. This is better than most. Thank you very much. I will recommend. I'll keep recommending. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. I guess one thing maybe I should say it's just like I think there's something I've been said with. I think that is it's not a bad point. Like it was a different time. But I do think that you do have to. I think there's steps you need to do to make sure the audience kind of gets this is a different time before. And I didn't just mean like clay pots. I'm like, if you want to put us in this world where like get ready for really edgy morality, like different type of like there's a way Game of Thrones does it where is this kind of film, is it right? Like you see incest happen, you see somebody get pushed, you see a child get pushed, like all in the same episode. Like it's telling you this world is crazy, get set up right. But where if it's like this, the problems we have is just in this one area with sexual assault, and given like Kunle's past history with it, I just can't give that. It's difficult to give him the benefit of doubt that this is the thing.
Yeah, and with the women, sure, but like with Saro's character and sexually assaulting the maid, that one was just evidence of this is Saro in his villain era. Right, this was showing Saro in his villain era. This is Saro has now become it was part of showing Sarah in his villain era, and there was just no build up to that. It was just when they were showing Sarah looking at the ass, we're like, yeah, of course Sarah has wandering penis syndrome. I guess Sarah being interested in another person. And when he was doing all the setup and trying to lure her in, I thought okay, but like when it went straight to rape, we're like, whoa, slow down. This has not been built up that Sarah is a rapist.
Yeah. Well, so it's your turn to do your summary.
Okay, yes. So I think there's a lot to like in this film. I have recommended it to a few people since I watched it. I'm not opposed to a rewatch. I mean, we have a long backlog, so before I get back around to it, but I'm not opposed to a rewatch. I've recommended it to quite a number of people because there is a lot to like. And honestly, considering what Nollywood has offered to us this year, this is on the up. I think Kunle is returning to form with this, which I'm happy with. I am happy with the film Village. I want to see what he does with that moving forward. I wonder if this means he is going to be sticking to more Yoruba epics, which I think would be great. I'm very much up for that. I enjoyed the performances in this. I thought Shola Shopawale was fantastic. I thought Bimbo and Kunle Remy were good. I thought like even the other queen, there was another queen in the palace that was good. Princess not so much, but there's another queen that was good. So I enjoyed most of the performances from this. Like Vanessa said, I love that it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Even if the ending didn't land, I love that we went from A to B to C. That is all I have been begging Nollywood for this year, and Aníkúlápó gave me that, so I'm very, very happy. I love that we didn't have any silly, pointless, random, stupid twists. We got A to B to Z. Inconsistent characterizations here and there, fine, but no random weird twists just for a shock factor. So yeah, I would recommend Aníkúlápó. Much better than most of the things we've gotten this year.
All right. Thanks, Mrs. C. Just before I give my last summary, I just want to remind people you can rate and review this on Nolly Data. It's one of the first pinned tweets on the space. All right. So my general thing is, all right. So I didn't mind this film when I saw it the first time. I saw it the second time, and I don't like it. I don't like it. And it's just because I don't think this movie is going to age very well. I don't even think it works that well now, but I think what happens when you have two very charismatic leads taken in beautiful landscapes with really good production design, I think it's just easy to forgive things. And I think that's probably what happened to me on the second watch, is that just the flaws in the story just tend to just stuck out a lot more. I don't think this film ages very well in a few years. I think a lot of people will cringe when you show this to your friends, when you get to all the Sex in the Woods things. It's just not one that I like. I don't think it's, especially on the second watch. The first watch, I get why people, I was with a lot of people. I was like, oh, this is, and I do agree that this is one of Kunle's best work, by the way, in saying all of this. I just don't think this is the story I'm taking home anywhere. It has too many problems, both social wise and also with the script. That's just where it leaves me. Good luck watching this film in 5 years. It's like, fine, make fun of all of you make fun of Mr. C now for Orange and Teal. Watch what this looks like in 10 years when we're looking back at it. It's like, why is everyone so orange? Just remember, Mr. C told you guys. He told you. But anyway, that's it from us. That's Nollywood Film Club for this week. Join us next week, Sunday. We do this every Sunday, 6 o'clock.
It's not always this long.
It's not always this long. There's this Netflix original, I guess. But yes, we do have a YouTube channel. We do. Yes, we kind of do. where we have neglected to some bit, but like if you put pressure on us, I guess we might start dropping videos back. Also, if not, follow people here who have been speaking. They're really good speakers. They talk a lot about Nollywood. A lot of them. If you like anything you heard from the speakers, and if not, we'll see you next week. Do
we know what we're saying next week, or are we doing a poll?
I'm going to put up a poll. It's going to
Yes,
it's going to contain Tainted Canvas, I think, and maybe Aki and Popo. So yeah. All right. Anyway, but thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed listening and would like to join live, just follow us on Twitter at Iroko Critic and join us every Sunday, 6 p.m. West African time on our spaces.